The moving truck was backed across my driveway when I got home. One rear tire had crushed the edge of Teresa's flower bed. The other sat on an orange extension cord from my workshop. A man I didn't recognize carried a recliner toward my guest house. Kathy Chapman stood beside the open truck, pointing at boxes with a rolled-up magazine. "Kitchen stuff goes inside," she told him. "Garage things go in that shed." Donald Chapman was already trying my guest house key in the lock. I parked on Larkspur Street and walked up my own driveway. Benjamin saw me first. My son-in-law lowered one end of a folding table and wiped his hands on his jeans. "John," he said, "you're back early. It was almost 4 in the afternoon. What are your parents doing?" Kathy stopped giving directions. Donald kept working the key. Benjamin glanced toward the guest house. Their rental situation fell apart. We handled it. We? Lauren and me. That was when my daughter came out of the guest house carrying an empty plastic tub. She didn't look surprised to see me. She looked worried that I'd arrived before they finished. "Dad, can we talk inside?" she asked. "We can talk right here. Why is there a moving truck in my driveway?" Her eyes went to Benjamin. He answered for her. "Mom and Dad need a place for a while. That house has been sitting empty." "It isn't sitting empty. Lauren rents it. Lauren isn't living there. That doesn't make it empty." Donald finally opened the door. He pushed it wide and called to one of the movers. "You can bring the mattress now." I raised my voice just enough for everyone to hear. "No. Leave the mattress on the truck." The mover stopped beside the ramp. He looked from me to Benjamin. Benjamin gave a tired laugh. "Come on, John. Don't turn this into something." Lauren set the tub down. "Dad, please. They don't have anywhere else ready." Kathy folded the magazine against her chest. "We were told this was settled," she said. It wasn't settled with me. Nobody spoke for a moment. The truck's engine rattled behind us. Somewhere inside the guest house, a smoke detector gave one short chirp. "My name is John Hale, and I'm 67 years old. What city are you listening from?" "I've lived in Greer, South Carolina, most of my life. I worked as an electrician for more than 4 decades. I'm the kind of man who notices a damaged cord before the truck's sitting on it. I'm also the kind who fixes that cord before asking why somebody drove over it. That second habit caused more trouble than the first. My wife, Teresa, died in 2021. Until then, I never understood how many small decisions belonged to 2 people. Which tomatoes to buy, whether the porch light looked crooked. Who should call Lauren when she sounded upset? After Teresa was gone, the house became too quiet by 6 every evening. I started leaving the radio on in the kitchen. I didn't listen to it. I just wanted another voice nearby while I ate. Teresa kept a yellow ceramic bowl beside the phone. She dropped grocery coupons, spare buttons, and loose screws into it. After she died, I kept doing the same thing. I'd come home with a screw in my pocket and put it in her bowl without thinking. Lauren began calling more often that first year. "Dad, do you know anything about water heaters?" "Dad, the dining room light keeps blinking." "Dad, Benjamin says the garage outlet is dead." I always knew something about whatever had stopped working. Sometimes I drove over with my tool bag, sometimes I paid for the part. If Lauren sounded tired, I bought dinner on the way. It felt good to be needed, that's the plain truth. She was my only daughter. Teresa had always been the person Lauren called first. After the funeral, I stepped into every empty space I could find. Benjamin didn't object. He'd meet me at their door and say, "The expert has arrived." At first, I liked that. He was friendly when I had tools in my hands. He called me Mr. Hale when we first met. Then John, after he married Lauren. He never called just to ask how I was doing. He called when the disposal jammed or the air conditioner made noise. I noticed. I also kept going. 2 years after Teresa died, Lauren showed up at my house on a rainy Tuesday night. She had one suitcase, a grocery bag full of shoes, and mascara under both eyes. She stood under my porch light and said, "I left Benjamin. I didn't ask questions on the porch. I carried her suitcase inside and put the kettle on. Teresa always made tea when somebody arrived upset." I still had a box of the kind Lauren liked. She sat at my kitchen table with both hands around the mug. "He checks everything I spend," she said. "He wants to know where I've been every minute." "Did he hurt you?" "No, not like that." I waited. "He makes every decision, Dad." Then he tells me we decided together. That sounded familiar, though I didn't say so. She stayed in her old room for 6 nights. On the 7th morning, she asked about the guest house. It sits behind my main house, past the workshop. It's small, one bedroom with a narrow kitchen and a little screened porch. Teresa and I had fixed it up for visiting relatives. After she died, I used it mostly for storing extra furniture. I could pay rent, Lauren said. Not much at first. You don't have to pay me, I need to. She said it quickly. That mattered to her, so I didn't argue. We settled on $400 a month. That was well below what similar places rented for, but enough for her to feel independent. I spent 3 weekends getting it ready. I replaced 2 outlets, repaired the porch screen, and painted the bedroom. Lauren helped until Benjamin started calling. Then she'd step outside and stay on the phone for half an hour. One afternoon, I found her sitting on the guest house steps. He says I'm punishing him, she told me. For leaving? For not coming back yet. I sat beside her. What do you want? She picked dried paint from her thumbnail. I want him to understand that I can leave. That answer bothered me. She hadn't said she wanted to be gone. She wanted Benjamin to know she had somewhere else to go. Before she moved in, I insisted on a written lease. Lauren frowned when I told her, "You're my dad, and you're paying rent. You think I won't pay you? I think clear arrangements protect people who love each other." That was something Teresa used to say. She kept receipts in labeled envelopes and wrote due dates on the calendar. She didn't distrust family, she distrusted confusion. I used a simple lease, nothing fancy. We sat at the workbench in my workshop because the guest house table hadn't arrived. Lauren read it faster than I liked. "You want me to initial every page?" "Yes." She smiled a little. "You really are making this official. I'm trying to make it clear." She signed, I signed. I gave her a copy and the brass guest house key. I put the original in a green folder marked Guest House Lease. Then I locked it in the bottom drawer of my workshop file cabinet. The drawer stuck halfway. I had to lift it before pushing it closed. I remember that because Lauren laughed at me. "Very secure," she said. "Secure enough." For a while, the arrangement worked. Lauren paid on the first Friday of every month. She bought curtains and planted rosemary near the porch. I learned to knock before checking anything outside. She learned not to leave wet towels over the bathroom door. We ate dinner together on Sundays. Sometimes she cooked. Usually I did. Benjamin began appearing after a few weeks. The first time, he parked on the street. He stayed 20 minutes. The next time, his car remained until after midnight. Then, I started seeing it in the morning. I didn't police Lauren's visitors. She was an adult woman, paying rent. Still, I noticed Benjamin never looked comfortable when he passed my workshop. He'd wave, but he rarely stopped. Once he saw me filing paperwork at my bench. "You keep records on everything?" he asked. "Anything involving a house?" He laughed. "Lauren said you made her sign an actual lease." "I did. That's a little formal for family. It keeps us from remembering different agreements." He leaned against the doorframe. "I guess. Lauren handles that stuff." I closed the file drawer. He never asked to see the lease. I never offered. By 2025, Lauren had gone back to Benjamin. She carried most of her clothes out in 2 trips. She left the curtains, some dishes, and an old blue couch. "What do you want to do about the guest house?" I asked. She stood beside her car with the brass key in her hand. "I'd like to keep it. You're moving home, I know. Then why pay rent here?" She rubbed the edge of the key with her thumb. "Because things are better when I know I can leave." $400 was a lot for a place she wasn't using. I told her that. She said, "It's worth it to me." I agreed to leave things as they were. That choice made sense at the time. Lauren kept paying. She came by every couple of weeks to air out the rooms and collect whatever mail still arrived. Sometimes she sat with me for coffee. More often she rushed in and out. Benjamin came twice that year. Both times he needed something. The first time he borrowed my drain snake. The second time he asked if I knew a cheap heating contractor for his parents. "What's wrong with their heat?" I asked. "The landlord won't replace the unit. Is it broken?" "It works when it feels like it." I gave him a name and asked where his parents were living. "Over near Taylor's. They hate it there." That was all he said. 3 months later, I saw the moving truck in my driveway. Standing there between Benjamin and the movers, I understood that everyone except me had discussed my property. Lauren walked closer and lowered her voice. "Dad, can you just give us a few days? How many?" "I don't know. Did you tell them they could live here?" She looked at the ground. Benjamin stepped beside her. "I told them the guest house was available. It wasn't yours to offer. It's Lauren's place. She rents it." And she said yes. I looked at Lauren. "Did you?" She took a long breath. "I said we could figure it out." "That isn't an answer." They had to be out today. Why? The landlord wouldn't renew, Benjamin said. They've been packing for a week. That answered one small question. This hadn't happened that morning. They'd had time to call me. Where have you been keeping the truck? I asked. Benjamin's face tightened. What does that matter? It matters if you waited until I left. I didn't know you were gone. Lauren looked at him then. It was quick, but I saw it. I'd told her the night before that I had a supply run in Spartanburg. I hadn't told Benjamin. I turned to the mover holding the mattress. Sir, I own the property. Nothing else comes off that truck until this is resolved. He nodded and carried the mattress back up the ramp. Benjamin said, You're embarrassing everybody. I'm standing in my own driveway. Donald came over from the guest house. John, we're not trying to take advantage, he said. Ben said Lauren had this place and she wasn't using it. Did he tell you he asked me? Donald glanced at his son. No. I assumed he had. Kathy's mouth tightened. We paid for this truck by the hour. I didn't hire it, Lauren whispered. Dad. I looked at what they'd already unloaded. 2 chairs, a table, 6 plastic bins, and a stack of framed pictures leaned against the guest house wall. Their refrigerator was still on the truck. I could have called the police. I could have stood in the doorway. Neither would solve what had already happened between Lauren and me. I told the movers they could place the unloaded items under the screened porch. Nothing else was going inside. That was my first small decision, and Benjamin hated it. You can't leave my parents' furniture on a porch, then put it back on the truck. Donald spoke before Benjamin could answer. Put it back, he told the movers. Kathy stared at him. Donald? We were supposed to have permission. We do have permission, Benjamin said. Not from him. Lauren folded her arms and looked toward the street. I walked to the guest house door and held out my hand. Give me the key. Donald placed it in my palm. It wasn't the brass key I'd given Lauren. This one was a fresh silver copy. I looked at my daughter. How many copies did you make? Just that one. Who made it? Lauren didn't answer. Benjamin did. I did, because my parents needed access. I closed my fingers around the copied key. For the first time that afternoon, something had moved back under my control. Nothing else gets unloaded today, I said. Lauren, I want you in the workshop at 7. Come alone. Benjamin shook his head. We make family decisions together. I looked directly at my daughter. 7 o'clock, Lauren. She finally met my eyes. All right, she said. After the truck left, I went into my workshop. I unlocked the bottom file drawer and lifted it over the place where it always caught. The green Lease folder was exactly where I had left it. I didn't open it. I set my hand on the folder, then closed the drawer again. If Lauren came alone, I wanted to hear her before reaching for paper. If she brought Benjamin, that would tell me something too. At 7:15, the workshop door opened. Lauren stepped inside by herself. She'd changed her shirt, but there was still dust on her shoes. She sat on the stool beside my workbench. Sorry I'm late. Where are Donald and Kathy? At a motel near the interstate. And their furniture? In the truck. They paid to keep it overnight. I nodded. Who has the truck? Benjamin. Is he at the motel? He's helping them check in. I pulled the other stool over and sat across from her. Did you tell Benjamin I'd be gone today? She looked toward the file cabinet. I mentioned your supply run. When? Last night. And when did he tell his parents they could move here? I don't know exactly. You said they'd been packing for a week. He's been talking about it. That isn't what I asked? Lauren rubbed her palms over her jeans. Last weekend, maybe. So he knew they were moving here before you told him I'd be gone. Yes. Did he ask you to call me? He said you'd make it complicated. I sat back. What did you say? I said I'd talk to you. But you didn't. No. Why? Because I knew you'd say no. That was the first fully honest thing she'd said all afternoon. The workshop had cooled down after sunset. I could smell sawdust and the machine oil I used on my old drill press. The fluorescent light above us gave off a faint buzz. Lauren looked at the green folder through the glass front of the cabinet. Are you going to cancel my lease? I'm asking what happened. You took out the folder. I checked that it was there. She folded her arms. Benjamin thinks you're using the lease to control me. Benjamin hasn't read it. I know. Have you? Of course. Recently? She didn't answer. I leaned forward. Did you give your parents-in-law permission to live there? I said they could stay for a little while. How long is a little while? Until they find something. Are they looking? They will. That means no one has a date. They had a bad landlord, Dad. Their rent went up. The heat barely worked. They couldn't keep paying for that place. Then Benjamin should have called me. He knew how you'd react. He knew I'd expect him to ask. She stood and walked to the open workshop door. The guest house porch light was visible through the trees. I'm trying to keep my marriage together, she said. I waited for her to turn around. What does that have to do with my guest house? His parents think I don't like them. Do you? That's not fair. It's a simple question. She faced me. Kathy makes comments. Donald ignores it. Benjamin says she doesn't mean anything. If I tell them they can't use a house I'm renting, I'm the selfish one again. So, you want me to be the selfish one. Her eyes filled, but she blinked it away. I want you to help me. That word had worked on me for years. Help could mean changing a ceiling fan. It could mean paying a bill that arrived at a bad time. It could mean giving up a Saturday because Benjamin had somewhere else to be. Once, Lauren called while I was halfway through eating dinner. Dad, are you busy? There was always a pause after that question. She waited for me to make the request easy. What's wrong? Our refrigerator stopped cooling. I'll come look. You don't have to come tonight. Food was sitting in warm air, so of course I had to come. We both knew that. When I arrived, Benjamin was wearing a clean shirt and checking his phone. Thank God, he said. We've got reservations. I opened the freezer. The ice had started melting around the edges. Where are you going? Dinner with Mom and Dad. It's their anniversary. Lauren stood beside the counter with her purse. I can stay, she said. Benjamin looked annoyed. Your dad's already here. I pulled the refrigerator away from the wall. Dust covered the coils. A plastic bag had been sucked against the lower vent. You can go, I told them. Lauren hesitated. Are you sure? I'm already here. They left while I was lying on the kitchen floor. I cleaned the coils, cleared the vent, and waited for the compressor to start. It took less than an hour. I put their milk and meat into a cooler while the temperature dropped. Lauren sent me a message from the restaurant. Is it fixable? I replied that it was already running. She sent a heart and wrote, You're the best. Nobody asked if I'd eaten. That night, I warmed the rest of my dinner in their microwave. I sat at their counter because I didn't want to leave until I knew the refrigerator would hold temperature. I didn't feel used then. I felt useful. That was the problem. Another time, Benjamin brought his parents to my house for Sunday lunch. Teresa had been gone a little over 4 years. I'd made pot roast because Lauren said Kathy liked it. Donald and I were carrying plates to the table when Benjamin looked out my kitchen window. That little house is nicer than their rental, he said. Kathy turned in her chair. What little house? Dad's guest house, Lauren said. Benjamin pointed through the glass. Lauren's got it fixed up like a vacation place. It's not a vacation place, I said. He grinned. For $400 a month, it kind of is. Lauren looked at him. Why would you tell them what I pay? We're all family. Kathy stood and went to the window. That whole place is hers? She rents it, I said. Donald joined her. 1 bedroom, 1, full kitchen? Yes. Kathy looked toward Lauren. And it sits empty while you live with Benjamin? I still use it, Lauren said. That wasn't true, not in the usual sense. She used it as proof that she could leave. I understood that, so I didn't correct her. Benjamin sat at my table and reached for the potatoes. John likes having her close, he said. The remark sounded harmless. I even agreed. I do. Kathy returned to her chair. It must be nice, she said, having family who can make things easy. She wasn't asking for the guest house then. At least I didn't think she was. Still, after the moving truck came, I remembered how long she'd looked through that window. Back in the workshop, Lauren was waiting for my answer. I can pay more, she said. If that's the issue, it isn't. Then what is? You made a decision about my property because saying no to Benjamin was uncomfortable. I'm the tenant. You aren't living there. I'm still paying. That doesn't give Benjamin the right to hand out keys. She paced between the bench and the door. They need 2 weeks, maybe 3. Earlier, you didn't know how long. I'm trying to give you a number. You're trying to find a number I'll accept. She pressed her lips together. I asked, why didn't Benjamin bring them into your house? We don't have room. You have a spare bedroom. He uses it for his office. An office can be moved. It isn't that simple. It sounds simple from here. She gave me the same tired look Benjamin had used in the driveway. You don't understand what it's like in our house. No, I don't. You stopped telling me. That's because every time we have a problem, you start looking for something to fix. That landed cleanly. I didn't defend myself because she was right. When Lauren left Benjamin, I repaired the guest house. When she went back, I let her keep it. When she struggled to oppose him, I tried to become the stronger objection. I had made myself the emergency exit in her marriage. Then I'd acted surprised when everyone treated my property like a door. Lauren sat again. Can they stay through the weekend? No. 3 nights? No. 1 night. They've already paid for the truck twice. That's Benjamin's problem. It becomes my problem when he comes home angry. I looked at her. Are you afraid of him? She took several seconds. No. It wasn't a strong no, but I believe she meant he wasn't going to hit her. That didn't mean she wasn't afraid of his anger. She picked up a loose wire nut from my bench and rolled it between her fingers. If I tell him this is over, he'll say I humiliated his parents. You didn't bring a moving truck onto my property. I agreed after he told them. Why? Because everybody was looking at me. I understood that feeling. I'd spent years agreeing while people waited. I held out my hand for the wire nut. She placed it in my palm. I'm not giving permission, I said. They cannot live in the guest house. What am I supposed to tell them? The truth, that you refused, that nobody asked me. She stood. Those sound the same to them. They aren't the same to me. Lauren left a few minutes later. She didn't slam the door. That would have been easier. She closed it carefully, like she was leaving someone else's house. I stayed in the workshop until 9. I sorted screws that didn't need sorting. Then I went inside and put a frozen dinner in the microwave. The yellow bowl beside the phone held 2 washers, a button, and the silver key Benjamin had made. I should have called him that night. Instead, I waited for Lauren to handle it. That was another part of our pattern. I solved the practical problem and left her to say the difficult thing. Then she avoided saying it, and I stepped in later. At 8 the next morning, someone knocked on my back door. Donald stood outside with 2 paper cups of coffee. I thought we should talk, he said. I led him into the kitchen. He placed 1 cup in front of me. Black, right? Yes. Ben said, you're upset. He used a softer word, I'm sure. Donald gave a brief smile. He said you were being territorial. It's my property. I'm allowed some territory. I told him we should have spoken to you first. That would have helped. He looked down at his coffee. We've got enough for a motel through Friday. After that, it gets tight. What happened to your rental? The owner decided not to renew. Why? He wants to fix it up and charge more. Did you get notice? 60 days. That was another useful answer. They hadn't been put out without warning. They'd had 2 months. Benjamin said your landlord forced you out. That's how Ben says things. Did you spend those 60 days looking for another place? Kathy looked at a few. What was wrong with them? Too expensive, too far out. One had stairs. The guest house had 2 steps at the porch. Donald rubbed the side of his cup. Ben told us Lauren had the place whether she stayed there or not. He said it was hers to use. Did Lauren say that? She didn't say much. That sounded like Lauren. I'm sorry you paid for the truck, I said, but you can't stay there. He nodded once, though his face fell. I understand. Does Kathy? She will. I doubted that, but Donald had at least come to me directly. I respected him for it. Before he left, he stopped beside the yellow bowl. That the extra key? The copy Benjamin made. He gave us 2. I looked at him. Where's the other one? Kathy has it. I set down my coffee. Did she come with you? She's in the car. I walked outside with Donald. Kathy sat in the passenger seat looking straight ahead. When he opened her door, she held up both hands. I don't have it. Donald's expression changed. You put it on the motel dresser? I gave it back to Ben. When? This morning. Donald took out his phone and called him. It went to voicemail. I called Lauren. She didn't answer. At 10:30, I drove to the hardware store for a replacement lock cylinder. I carried it as far as the workshop before stopping. Lauren still held a valid brass key. Changing the lock without dealing with her tenancy would only create another argument. I put the new cylinder on my bench unopened. Just before noon, the guest house porch light came on. I walked outside. Kathy's car was parked on the grass behind the workshop, where I couldn't see it from my kitchen. The silver key was in the guest house lock. Boxes covered the living room floor, and the blue couch had been pushed against the wall. Donald stood inside holding a lamp. Kathy was unpacking dishes. Lauren came out of the bedroom. I let them in, she said. I looked at the brass key hanging from her fingers. You told me you understood. I heard what you said. That isn't the same thing. No, she said, it isn't. A breaker tripped while we were standing there. The kitchen lights went out, and Kathy called from inside. The outlets are dead again. Without thinking, I walked around the guest house toward the electrical panel. Benjamin arrived while I was resetting it. He saw my hand on the breaker and smiled as though the matter had been settled. I knew you'd come around, he said. I removed my hand from the panel. The lights were back on. My refusal hadn't changed, but once again, I had fixed what they needed before making them hear it. Benjamin, I didn't come around. He rested one arm on the open panel door. The power's back on. Because the kitchen circuit was overloaded, Kathy appeared at the corner of the house. We had a toaster and the little oven going, she said. And the coffee maker, Donald added from inside. All on the same counter? I asked. Kathy nodded. Then don't run them together. Benjamin looked at the breakers. Shouldn't you upgrade this? The service is fine for 1 or 2 people. There are 4 outlets in that kitchen. 4 outlets don't mean 4 heating appliances at once. He smiled again, but there wasn't much humor in it. So, we're going to have this conversation every time something needs fixing? No. You're going to stop calling a normal breaker trip a fault. Lauren had followed us around the side of the guest house. She stood behind him with her arms folded. Dad, nobody asked for a whole electrical job. He just did, I said. Benjamin closed the panel door harder than necessary. I asked if it should be upgraded. You asked after your parents moved in. Donald came outside and wiped his hands on his pants. We can watch what we plug in. It's not a big deal. That should have ended it. Benjamin wasn't interested in ending anything. He pointed at the 2 porch steps. Dad's knee has been bothering him. We should probably put a ramp here. Donald gave him a puzzled look. My knee's fine. You said it hurts on stairs. I said it hurt after we carried the dresser. Benjamin ignored him. We can do a simple wooden ramp, he told me. Nothing expensive. Who is we? I can help. Your parents aren't staying long enough to build anything. His jaw shifted. And we'll need another place to park. Mom can't leave her car behind the workshop forever. She shouldn't be parked on the grass now. There's nowhere else. There's the street. Kathy came closer. I don't feel comfortable leaving my car on the street. Larkspur Street was quiet. My truck had spent plenty of nights there. Then use the driveway when I'm not coming through, I said. Benjamin spread his hands. This is what I'm talking about. Every small thing becomes permission. That's because every small thing involves my property. Lauren said, Can everybody stop for a minute? I turned to her. Ask for the keys. Her face changed. Dad? The silver copies. Both of them? You already have one. The one used to open this door today is still in the lock. She looked back. The key was hanging from the knob. Benjamin reached it first. He pulled it out and closed his fist around it. This key belongs with the house. It belongs to whoever I gave it to. You gave Lauren the house. I rented it to her. She's my wife. That doesn't make you my tenant. He laughed once. You think a piece of paper means I have no rights here? I think you should give me the key. My parents are family. Lauren pays you every month. You can't just put them out because you're in a mood. I held out my hand. Have you read the lease? He looked at Lauren instead of answering. She told me what it says. I watched her face. She didn't confirm that. Benjamin dropped the key into his pocket. I'm done arguing in the yard, he said. He went inside the guest house and shut the door. Donald looked embarrassed. Kathy looked relieved. Lauren walked toward her car. I followed her as far as the gravel. Did you tell him what the lease says? I told him it's my lease. That wasn't my question. She opened her car door. I'm not doing this with you right now. Then tell him to return the key. He's not going to. Will you? She looked at the brass key in her hand. No. Then she got into her car and drove away. I went back to the workshop, picked up the unopened lock cylinder, and returned it to the hardware store. I didn't want Benjamin telling anyone I'd locked Lauren out of a place she still rented. That afternoon, I made a different choice. I stopped relying on conversations. Teresa had kept a small spiral notebook beside our kitchen phone. She wrote down repair appointments, confirmation numbers, and promises people made. I used to tease her about it. If they said Tuesday, they'll come Tuesday, I once told her. She tapped the notebook with her pen. Then, writing it down won't hurt them. After she died, I found a stack of those notebooks in the drawer under the phone. I took a fresh one and wrote the date at the top. I recorded when I saw the truck. I wrote down the 2 copied keys, the furniture, and the overloaded kitchen circuit. I included Donald's statement about the 60-day notice. It felt strange writing about my own family that way. I wasn't building a case. At least, I didn't think of it that way then. I wanted a record that couldn't be softened later. At 3, I went to the guest house and knocked. Kathy opened the door about 6 inches. Yes? I need to check the outlet that lost power. It's working now. I still need to inspect it. She looked over her shoulder. Donald's resting. I won't bother him. She kept one hand on the door. Maybe come back when Benjamin's here. This is my guest house. We're not comfortable having people walk in. I almost laughed at the word people. I'm the landlord. Lauren is our landlord. No, Lauren is the tenant. Her eyebrows lifted. That was new information to her. Ben said she controlled the house. She doesn't own it. I know you own the property. Then you know who handles repairs. Kathy opened the door a little wider. I suppose. I stayed near the kitchen. I removed the outlet cover and checked for heat damage. There wasn't any. The room had changed in less than 3 hours. Their framed photographs were on the shelves. Kathy's blankets covered the blue couch. A television sat on a folding stand near the window. This wasn't an overnight arrangement. A pile of envelopes lay beside the sink. Most were old bills held together with a rubber band. On top was a printed change of address confirmation. I didn't touch it. I could read the guest house address from where I stood. When did you submit the mail change? I asked. Kathy glanced at the counter. Ben did that. When? A few days ago? Before you came here? We needed somewhere for our mail. You used this address before I knew you were coming. She picked up the stack and put it in a drawer. Ben said it was handled, that phrase again. I replaced the outlet cover. Donald came from the bedroom, rubbing his eyes. Everything all right? The outlet is safe. Good. I saw the address confirmation. He looked at Kathy. She said, it was sitting right there. Donald pulled out a chair. I told Ben not to do that yet. Why did he? He said we needed proof of address for the insurance. What insurance? Our car policy. They wanted our new location. You didn't have a new location. We thought we did, before anyone asked me. Donald looked tired. We thought Lauren could decide. I nodded toward the living room. How much of your furniture is here? Most of it. What's still on the truck? Bedroom set, washer, dryer, tools. Where is the truck? At a storage place off Wade Hampton. That was different from what Lauren had told me. She'd said Benjamin had the truck. Either she hadn't known, or she wanted me to believe the move could still be reversed easily. How long did you reserve storage? Donald looked at Kathy again. She answered, 1 month. 1 month wasn't a permanent plan. It wasn't a weekend either. I put the screwdriver in my pocket. You need to find another rental. We are looking, Donald said. Where? Kathy has a list. Kathy crossed her arms. Everything decent costs more than we can pay. What can you pay? That's personal. You're living in my guest house. We're not asking you for money. You're asking me for housing. She turned away. Donald said, we can pay Lauren something. Lauren pays me $400. Kathy looked back. That's what she pays for this whole place? Yes. No wonder she kept it. I regretted answering as soon as I saw her expression. She wasn't thinking about Lauren's refuge. She was measuring a bargain. What did Benjamin tell you that you'd pay? I asked. He said not to worry about it yet. Nothing? He said family would work it out. I closed my tool pouch. That was the real plan. Benjamin had promised space he didn't control, at a price nobody had discussed. Lauren would keep paying me. His parents would pay nothing. I would continue repairing the place. Everyone had a benefit except the person expected to agree. I left through the front door. Benjamin's silver key was no longer in the lock. When I reached the workshop, I took out my phone. I started a message to Lauren, deleted it, then started again. I kept it short. Donald and Kathy are living in the guest house. I did not agree to this. Their mail was redirected here before the move. Please confirm that you will remove them and return both copied keys. I read it 3 times before sending it. Lauren called within a minute. Why are you texting me like I'm a stranger? Because we keep remembering conversations differently. I never said they weren't staying. You said you wanted time to figure it out. I figured it out. Then, answer the message. I'm talking to you now. I want your answer in writing. There was a long silence. Did Benjamin tell you not to put anything in writing? I asked. No. Then answer. Her voice sharpened. You're making me choose between you and my husband. I'm asking whether you will remove people you let into my property without permission. They're not dangerous. That isn't the question. They're his parents. I know who they are. Then why are you treating them like trespassers? Why are you avoiding a clear answer? She breathed into the phone. I could hear a turn signal clicking on her end. Finally, she said, I have to drive. Then she disconnected. I sat at my workbench and waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. At 3:38, my phone buzzed. Lauren's message said, I gave Donald and Kathy permission to stay as my guests. I'm not removing them while they have nowhere reasonable to go. We'll talk when everybody is calmer. I read it twice. My deliberate action had worked. I had the answer I'd been unable to get all day. Benjamin had made the promise. Lauren had made the choice. That distinction changed what I needed to do next. I saved a copy of her message and wrote the time in Teresa's notebook. Then I opened the file cabinet. Before I reached the green folder, I noticed something on top of it. A glossy pamphlet had been folded in half and pushed into the drawer. The cover showed an older man watering flowers outside a brick apartment building. Across the top were the words, When living alone stops feeling safe. I hadn't put it there. The mailing label had my name and address on it. A date printed near the bottom showed it had been mailed 9 days earlier. I hadn't seen it in my mailbox. I hadn't carried it into the workshop. Inside were photographs of small apartments with grab bars, emergency pull cords, and shared dining rooms. Someone had circled a section titled, Family Guided Transition Planning. There was no note, no handwriting. Just a blue circle around those words. I checked the rest of the drawer. The lease folder was still sealed the way I kept important papers, with a small strip of white tape across the edge. The tape was unbroken. Nothing else appeared disturbed. I took the pamphlet to the kitchen and placed it beside Teresa's notebook. Then I called Lauren. She answered after the 4th ring. What now? Did you put a senior housing pamphlet in my file cabinet? What? It was addressed to me. Someone folded it and put it on top of the Guesthouse lease. I don't know what you're talking about. Did you order information using my name? No? Did Benjamin? Why would he do that? I'm asking. I don't know what he orders. Ask him. She sighed. Dad, you get all kinds of mail. This wasn't in my kitchen trash. It was inside my workshop cabinet. Maybe you put it there. I didn't. You just said it came 9 days ago. How can you be sure? Because I don't forget putting senior housing advertisements on legal documents. Her voice softened in a way I didn't like. Nobody said you forget things. You just suggested it. I said, maybe you moved one piece of mail. Ask Benjamin if he ordered it. Fine, I want an answer. You're acting like somebody broke into a bank vault. It was my file cabinet. A cabinet you leave unlocked half the time. That told me she'd noticed. Ask him, I said again. I ended the call before she could change the subject. Then I walked back to the workshop and checked the door. There were no marks around the lock. I usually left it open when I worked outside. Anyone on the property could have stepped inside. That included 4 people who now had reasons to look around. I put the pamphlet in a clear plastic sleeve. I wrote where I found it and the date. Then I relocked the cabinet and put the key on my own key ring. Lauren texted 20 minutes later. Ben says he didn't order anything. He thinks Kathy might have picked it up somewhere. That didn't explain my mailing label. It didn't explain the blue circle. It didn't explain how it reached the drawer. I replied with one question. Did Kathy put it in my workshop? Lauren didn't answer. I stood at the bench and looked through the window toward the guest house. Donald was carrying kitchen boxes from Kathy's car. She followed with a floor lamp. They weren't waiting for an answer anymore. They were settling in. I unlocked the cabinet again and removed the green folder. The tape across the edge broke with a soft pull. Inside was the lease Lauren and I had signed in 2023. Her initials ran down the right side of each page. The tenant line showed one name, Lauren Chapman. Her signature appeared at the end beside mine. No one else had signed. Halfway through the agreement was a general rule about assignment and additional residence. It said the tenant couldn't transfer the rental or add residents without my written consent. I remembered including it. I used a standard form and read every line before Lauren signed. The rule hadn't seemed important then. It was the sort of sentence people skipped because nothing was wrong yet. I had never given written consent for Donald or Kathy. I had never given spoken consent either. The lease also explained what happened after a breach. I had to give written notice and allow 14 days to correct it. If the problem remained after that, I could end the tenancy and seek possession. I read those lines twice. Changing the lock would have been quick. Turning off power would have been easy. Both would have given Benjamin a reason to make me the problem. The lease gave Lauren a choice. That mattered because I was finished making her choices for her. I took a yellow pad from the bench and wrote a plain notice. The first version sounded angry, so I tore it up. The second version was shorter. It said, Donald and Kathy were occupying the guest house without my written consent. It told Lauren to correct the breach by having them leave and returning the copied keys. It gave her 14 calendar days from delivery. I didn't threaten money. I didn't list every argument from the driveway. I wrote what had happened and what needed to change. Before printing it, I called the number of a local attorney I'd used years earlier for a property line question. His assistant said he was in court and couldn't speak until the next day. I nearly waited. Then I looked at the guest house through the workshop window again. Kathy was hanging curtains over Lauren's curtains. I made an appointment for the following morning. I didn't want a clever strategy. I wanted to know whether I was reading my own lease correctly. The attorney's office sat in a one-story brick building near downtown Greer. The waiting room had 4 chairs, a dying fern, and a coffee machine that sounded like a lawnmower. He read the lease while I sat across from him. "Did you approve the additional occupants in writing?" he asked. "No." "Did you accept rent from them?" "No." "Did you change the amount Lauren pays?" "No." "Have you cut utilities or changed locks?" "No." "Good. Don't." I showed him the message Lauren sent. He read it and nodded. She admits she allowed them to occupy the property. She calls them guests. What matters is what they're doing. Sleeping there, moving furniture in, receiving mail, treating it as their home. They changed their address before they arrived. That supports occupancy. I handed him my draft notice. He changed 2 sentences. He removed the request for both copied keys from the cure itself. "The breach is the occupants," he said. "Keep the notice focused. If they leave, deal with access separately. 14 days is correct. It's what your lease requires. What if Lauren ignores it? Then you decide whether you're willing to enforce the lease." That was the cost hidden inside the paper. Serving notice was easy. Following through meant ending the arrangement I'd created for my daughter. I asked, "Can I remove only Donald and Kathy?" "Your agreement is with Lauren. She's responsible for the breach, so any action is against her tenancy." "Yes." He slid the lease back to me. "Don't use this as a threat you don't mean. If you give notice and back down, everyone involved will understand that the lease is optional." I paid for the consultation and left with the corrected notice in a plain folder. On the way home, I stopped at the post office and sent 1 copy to Lauren by certified mail. I kept the receipt. Then I printed a second copy for hand delivery. The delivery record mattered because I didn't want another argument about what someone remembered. At the house, Benjamin's truck was parked beside Kathy's car. Both vehicles blocked the path to my workshop. I parked on the street. The guest house door was open. Benjamin was inside assembling a shelving unit. Donald held 2 metal pieces while Kathy directed them from the couch. Lauren stood at the kitchen counter. I knocked on the open door. Benjamin looked over his shoulder. "You don't have to knock. I do when a tenant has possession." He smirked. "Now you remember she's a tenant. I need to speak with Lauren. You can speak in front of us." I looked at my daughter. "Outside, please." She wiped her hands on a dish towel and followed me to the porch. I gave her the notice. "What is this?" "Written notice about the breach." She read the first paragraph. Her face went still. "You went to a lawyer?" I checked the lease. "You couldn't wait 1 day before doing this?" "I've waited since the truck arrived." She looked at the date near the bottom. 14 days? That's the time to correct it. Benjamin came through the door. "What did he give you?" Lauren tried to fold the notice, but he took it from her hand. He read it faster than she had. "This is ridiculous. It's formal notice," I said. "You're evicting my parents. I'm giving Lauren 14 days to correct a lease breach." He held the paper toward me. "They are her guests. They're living here. You don't get to decide who her family is. I decide who lives on my property under the lease." He scanned the notice again. "Where does it say I need your permission? This notice isn't the lease." "Then show me the lease. You can ask your wife for her copy." Lauren stared at the porch boards. Benjamin turned to her. "Where is it?" "I don't know. Probably in a box at home." He gave the notice back. "This doesn't change anything. It starts the 14 days." "And then what?" If the breach remains, I decide whether to end the tenancy. Kathy had come to the doorway. Donald stood behind her. What breach? She asked. Benjamin answered before I could. John says you're not allowed to be here. Kathy looked at Lauren. You told us we could stay. I did, Lauren said. Then how is this unauthorized? Lauren glanced at me. Because Dad didn't agree. Kathy's face reddened. This is the first we've heard about paperwork. Donald looked at his son. You said it was handled. It is handled, Benjamin said. This is pressure, that's all. I pointed to the notice. It isn't pressure, it's a deadline. Donald reached for the paper. Benjamin didn't give it to him. How long? Donald asked. 14 days from today, I said. Kathy sat down on the porch chair. We can't find a place in 14 days. You had 60 days before this. Our landlord gave us 60 days, she said. That doesn't mean we could afford what we found. I'm not responsible for the difference. Benjamin stepped between us. Dad paid rent his entire life. He worked. Mom worked. They're not freeloaders. Then help them find a place they can pay for. I am helping them. With my guest house. With Lauren's guest house. I looked at her. Is that what you believe? She held the notice with both hands. I believe they need time. You have 14 days, Benjamin said. They're staying. I didn't answer him. The notice wasn't addressed to him. I asked Lauren, are you going to correct the breach? She looked at Kathy, then Donald, then her husband. I don't know. It wasn't the answer Benjamin wanted. I saw that in his face. I nodded once. You have the deadline. A second copy is coming by certified mail. I walked back toward the main house. Behind me, Benjamin began giving instructions. Finish the shelves, he told Donald. Nobody's going anywhere today. That evening, Lauren's rent payment appeared in my bank account 10 days early. The note attached to it said, Guesthouse rent, full month. I called the bank and asked whether I could refuse an electronic transfer. The woman explained that I could send it back, but I couldn't stop Lauren from trying again without blocking transfers from her account. I returned the money, then I sent Lauren one sentence. I won't accept advance rent while the breach notice is active. She didn't respond. The next morning, I found 3 more senior living pamphlets spread across my kitchen table. My back door was locked. Nothing else had been moved. On top of the pamphlets sat a business card for a family transition consultant. An appointment time had been written across the front. Friday, 10 in the morning. Under it, in Benjamin's handwriting, were 4 words. We need to discuss Dad. I left everything where it was and took photographs. The brochures were arranged in a fan. The business card had been placed at the center. Whoever did it wanted me to see the message before I saw the appointment. I checked the windows and both doors. Nothing had been forced. Lauren still had the spare key I'd given her after Teresa died. Back then, it made sense. For several weeks after the funeral, I forgot ordinary things. I didn't forget where I lived or how to pay bills. I forgot to buy bread. I left clean laundry in the dryer. Once I missed a dental appointment because Teresa had always written our appointments on the kitchen calendar. Lauren began checking on me every evening. One night, she found me asleep in the chair with the television on. She picked up 3 envelopes from the floor beside me. You need a system, she said. I have one. Sleeping beside the electric bill isn't a system. She sorted the mail into stacks. Bills went beside the phone. Advertisements went into the recycling. Anything related to Teresa went unopened near the yellow bowl. Before she left, I gave her a spare house key. For emergencies, I said. She put it on her key ring. I won't abuse it. I never asked for it back. Standing in my kitchen years later, I understood that an emergency had become whatever Lauren and Benjamin decided it was. I called her. Were you inside my house yesterday? No. Think before you answer. I don't need to think. Someone used a key. The doors were locked. Maybe you left one open. I checked them before I went to bed. You check every door every night? Yes. She went quiet. I said, there are more pamphlets on my table. There's also an appointment card. What appointment? You know which one. I don't. Friday at 10. Benjamin wrote a note on it. She exhaled slowly. Okay, we wanted to talk to someone. Who entered my house? I did. You just said you didn't. I didn't know what you meant. I asked if you were inside. I stopped by when you were out. You put a pamphlet in my file cabinet? No. Did Benjamin? I don't know. Was he with you? Another pause. Yes. That was the useful part of asking one question at a time. There was less room to hide inside a long answer. Why did you bring him into my workshop? I didn't. I went into the kitchen. Then where was he? He said he needed a screwdriver. My workshop was open? I guess it probably was. I'd been in and out all afternoon. What is the appointment? A consultation. For whom? For us. As a family. The card says, transition consultant. She helps families plan ahead. Plan what? Living arrangements, safety, things like that. Whose living arrangements? Dad, you live alone in a large house. I know where I live. You're turning everything into an accusation. You came into my locked house and scheduled a stranger to discuss moving me. Nobody said moving you. What transition are we discussing? She didn't answer. I looked through the window. Donald was sitting on the guest house porch drinking coffee. A small rug had appeared beneath his chair. Cancel it, I said. We already paid for her time. Then meet her at your house. She needs to see your place. No, it's just a conversation. Then I'll have it. You and Benjamin don't need to be here. She asked for family. I didn't ask for her. Lauren's voice became flat. Fine. Do whatever you want. That's exactly what I intend to do. I ended the call. First, I removed the old back door lock. I had installed it myself, so replacing it took 15 minutes. I changed the front lock too because both used the same key. The new keys went into the yellow bowl until I finished. I kept one. I put the spare in a sealed envelope inside my locked workshop cabinet. Then I installed a latch on the cabinet drawer. It wasn't expensive or complicated. I just wanted to know when someone opened it. At 9:30 Friday morning, I made coffee and sat on my front porch. A gray car pulled into the driveway at 9:55. A woman carrying a leather folder got out. Lauren and Benjamin arrived behind her in their own car. Lauren tried her key at the front door before she saw me. It didn't turn. She looked toward the porch. You changed the locks? Yes. You could have told me. I just did. Benjamin glanced at the consultant. He didn't like being corrected in front of someone new. The woman approached and offered her hand. I'm Marcia. I work with families considering housing transitions. I'm John. This appointment was made without my consent. Her professional smile disappeared. I was told you knew we were meeting. I found your card after they entered my house. Lauren said, we were going to explain. Marcia looked from Lauren to Benjamin. Perhaps we should clarify before we begin. We can sit on the porch, I said. Benjamin pointed toward the house. She needs to see inside. No. How can she make an assessment from a porch? She isn't making an assessment. Marcia raised one hand. I don't conduct medical or legal assessments. I discuss housing needs and available services. That's what I was told, I said. Who contacted you? She opened her folder. The inquiry came from Lauren. Lauren shifted in her chair. Did she say I wanted to move? I asked. Marcia read from her intake page. She said the family was concerned about you living alone and managing a large property. What concern specifically? Benjamin answered. You're 67. You're climbing ladders. You're working around live electricity. Last month, you forgot we were coming for dinner. You came on Saturday. You told me Sunday. He leaned forward. That's not how I remember it. Lauren looked at her hands. I asked her, which day did you tell me? Sunday, originally. Benjamin stared at her. She added, then we changed it. That settled one example. Marcia asked, John, are you interested in discussing other housing options? No. Are you having difficulty maintaining your home? No. Do you need assistance with meals, transportation, medications, or finances? No. I kept my answers simple. I wasn't going to perform competence for my daughter's consultant. Marcia turned the intake page around so I could see it. Your family mentioned the detached residence as a possible place for a caregiver. I read the line twice. It said the main house could eventually be sold or rented. The detached guest house could provide housing for an on-site family member. No names were written beside either idea. Who suggested selling my house? Benjamin crossed one ankle over his knee. Nobody is selling anything. It's an option. For whom? For you. It isn't your option. You asked what the consultant does. She plans. Marcia closed the folder. I think there's been a misunderstanding about my role. No, I said. Your role is clear. The purpose wasn't. Lauren looked close to tears. We're worried about you. Since when? Since Mom died. You waited 5 years to schedule someone. You've been getting more rigid. About my house? About everything. I pointed through the trees toward the guest house. This started after I served notice. Benjamin said, that notice proved the problem. What problem? You'd rather leave two older people in a motel than share an empty building. It wasn't empty after you moved them in. You know what I mean. Marcia stood. This conversation isn't productive. John, I can leave information if you'd like. No, thank you. Would you like a copy of the intake form? Yes. Benjamin objected immediately. That has our private information. It contains plans for my property. Marcia removed a blank page from behind the intake form. I can provide a copy of the portions concerning John and the property. I won't share personal financial details supplied by anyone else. That was fair. She walked to her car, used a small portable scanner, and returned with 2 pages. I checked them before placing them beside me. The bottom of the second page included the date Lauren had contacted her. It was the morning after I stopped the moving truck. Not before, after. The housing consultation wasn't a long-standing concern. It was a response to my refusal. Marcia gave me her card. I'm closing the inquiry, she said. No further contact unless you request it. Thank you, she turned to Lauren. You may want to resolve the family disagreement directly. My services aren't appropriate without the person's participation. Then she left. The deliberate conversation had produced something useful. It also showed Benjamin that I was keeping copies. He watched me slide the pages into a folder. You're documenting your own daughter now? I'm documenting decisions about my home. You always need paper to tell you who to trust. No. Paper tells me what people said after trust fails. Lauren stood. Can I have my key back? No. It was for emergencies. You used it to enter while I was away. I brought information. You brought Benjamin into my house. He's my husband. That doesn't give him a key. She looked toward the guest house. What if something happens to you? Call emergency services. You know that's not what I mean. It's what emergency means. I asked her to remove my old house key from her ring. She did it slowly. The brass was worn smooth around the top. She'd carried it for 5 years. She dropped it into my hand. You're shutting me out. I changed a lock. You still have my phone number. That's not the same. No. One requires me to answer. Benjamin stood beside her. Come on, he's enjoying this. I wasn't. That was another thing he got wrong. After they left, I checked the mailbox. It was empty. That wasn't unusual by itself. Mail sometimes arrived after lunch. Still, the pamphlets had been addressed to me, and I hadn't seen them before they appeared inside my house. I went online and signed into the postal delivery account. Teresa and I had opened years ago. It sent daily photographs of incoming envelopes. The password didn't work. I tried the older password we had used. That failed too. When I requested a reset, the site said the recovery message had been sent to an email address ending in Lauren's initials. I called her again. Why is your email attached to my postal account? She sounded exhausted. You asked me to set it up after Mom died. I asked you to help me log in. You couldn't remember the password. That was 5 years ago. I've been checking it for you. Without telling me, I told you when bills were coming. I thought back. She had done that. Your power bill should be there tomorrow. Watch for the property tax notice. I'd treated those messages as kindness. I never asked how she knew. Did you change the password? I asked, a long time ago. Who sees the account? Just me. Does Benjamin? He's seen it when I'm logged in. Did you take the pamphlets from my mailbox? I brought them inside. All 4? Yes. Who ordered them? She hesitated. Benjamin requested information. Using my name. He needed the address. He used my name. It was free information, Dad. Why did you put one in my file cabinet? I didn't. Then Benjamin did, I suppose. And you lied when I first asked. I didn't want another fight. I ended the call and completed the identity check to recover the account. I changed the password, removed Lauren's email, and added my own. A security message went to her as soon as I did it. Less than a minute later, Benjamin called. So now Lauren can't even see whether your bills arrive? My mail is no longer her responsibility. You're isolating yourself. I'm taking back an account in my name. You're proving our point. What point is that? That you make impulsive decisions when you're upset. I looked at the intake form on my porch table. Is that what you're telling people? I'm telling them we're concerned. Who is them? He hung up. That afternoon, the postal delivery page showed an envelope from the county court addressed to me. I hadn't filed anything. I wasn't expecting anything from a court. The envelope was due the next day. I met the carrier at the mailbox the following afternoon. She handed me the envelope and continued down Larkspur Street. I stood beside the road while I opened it. The first page came from Greenville County Probate Court. Across the top were the words, "Petition to determine incapacity." My name appeared beneath them. Lauren's appeared on the next line. I read it once beside the mailbox. Then I carried it inside and read it again at the kitchen table. Lauren had signed a statement saying she believed I could no longer make sound decisions about my property and personal welfare. The examples were listed in short paragraphs. I had become forgetful after Teresa died. I worked around dangerous electrical systems. I lived alone and resisted family support. I had recently made an impulsive attempt to remove elderly relatives from housing. I had refused a professional home assessment. The petition asked the court to examine whether I needed someone appointed to help manage decisions. It didn't say Lauren already controlled anything. It didn't say I'd been found incapable. It was a request to begin a process. That was enough. I called the attorney who had reviewed the lease. I received something different, I told him. He heard my voice and asked me to bring it over. His assistant copied every page. I sat in the same chair as before while he read. "Did you know your daughter was filing this?" "No." "Have you had any medical diagnosis involving memory?" "No." "Any recent hospitalization?" "No." "Have you missed tax payments, utility bills, insurance, anything significant?" "No." "Does she have access to your bank accounts?" "No." "Power of attorney?" "No." "Does anyone else own part of the property?" "No." He reached the section about the guest house. "This appears connected to the lease dispute. It started the day after I stopped the move. Can you prove that sequence? I have messages, the notice, the consultant's intake date, and my notes." "Good." I disliked the word prove. I was sitting in a lawyer's office explaining that I knew my own mind. "What happens now?" I asked. "You respond. The court may order an evaluation. There may be a hearing. A petition isn't a finding. Can Lauren stop me from enforcing the lease while this is pending? Not by filing this paper. Can Benjamin? He isn't the petitioner, and he isn't your tenant." That answer mattered. It didn't make the other case disappear. He explained his fee. The retainer was $3,000. I wrote the check. $3,000 was money Teresa and I would have discussed before spending. We'd sit at the kitchen table with coffee and decide which account to use. Writing it alone made the amount feel larger. The attorney gave me a list of records to gather: tax receipts, utility payments, insurance documents, medical information, anything showing I manage my ordinary affairs. I took the list home. For the next 4 hours, I built a folder proving I could do things I'd done without an audience for years. I printed bank statements, I copied paid property taxes, I found the renewal notice for my homeowner's insurance and the receipt showing I'd paid it. Every page cost me something beyond money. It cost time, it cost privacy, it cost the ability to think of my daughter as someone who would never use my weakest year against me. At 6, I called Lauren. She didn't answer. I sent a message. I received the petition. "Come to my house tonight. Come alone." She replied 10 minutes later. "I can't tonight." I called again. This time she answered. "You signed a statement saying, 'I can't manage my life.' That isn't what it says. I'm looking at it. It says you may need help. You asked a court to decide whether I'm capable. We were worried. Who is we? You know who. Say his name." "Benjamin and I." "Did Donald and Kathy know?" "No." "When did you sign?" She was quiet long enough for me to find the date myself. The petition had been signed the morning of the consultant's visit, before Marcia arrived, before she closed the inquiry. "You signed it Friday morning," I said. "Yes." "Then you sat on my porch and pretended the visit was a conversation." "It was a conversation. You'd already filed this. We didn't know what you would do. You knew what I would do. I told you." "Dad, you changed the locks. You cut me out of the mail account. You served legal notice on me, all after you entered my house and moved people into my guest house. You're making every decision from anger. I paid $3,000 today because you signed that paper." Her breathing changed. "You hired a lawyer?" "Of course I did." "You didn't need to. Would you answer a court petition without advice? It wasn't supposed to become a fight. What was it supposed to become? A way to slow everything down. There it was. Slow down the notice? Slow down all of it. Did Benjamin tell you the petition would stop me? He said the court might want things left as they are until they understood the situation. And where did he learn that? I don't know. Did a lawyer tell him? No. So he guessed. He researched it. Did you read what you signed? I read it. Then you know it uses the year after your mother died as evidence against me. Her voice cracked. I didn't write it that way. But you signed it. I was trying to keep everything from falling apart. You keep saying trying as if the result belongs to someone else. She didn't respond. I asked, do you believe I'm incapable of managing my property? I believe you're not acting like yourself. That wasn't my question. I don't know what to believe. Do you want control of my decisions? No. Then withdraw the petition. I need to talk to Benjamin. You signed it. He helped prepare it. Your name is on it. We're married. That isn't an answer to every question. I heard her begin to cry. She covered the phone, but not completely. For years, that sound had ended arguments between us. I'd soften. I'd offer a solution. I'd tell her we could talk later. This time, I waited. After a while, she said, I can't do this right now. You have one direct choice. If you don't believe the petition, withdraw it. If you do believe it, tell me. I need time. How much? I don't know. The Guesthouse deadline still runs. You care more about that lease than your own daughter. I'm paying a lawyer because of my own daughter. She disconnected. I sat at the table with the phone in my hand. The yellow bowl was inches away. Teresa's button rested beside the new house key. I wanted to call Lauren back. I wanted to tell her I knew Benjamin had pushed her. I wanted to separate what she'd done from who she was. That would have been another service. She had signed the petition. Whatever Benjamin suggested, her hand had been on the pen. The next morning, I went to my doctor's office. I didn't ask him to declare me competent. I explained what had been filed and asked what records showed about my health. He reviewed my chart. My blood pressure ran a little high. My hearing wasn't as good as it used to be. Nothing in the record suggested memory loss or an inability to live independently. He asked several ordinary questions. The date, my address, what medications I took, who the president was. He gave me 3 words to remember while we talked about something else. I repeated them later. He printed a summary of my recent visits and wrote that he had observed no cognitive problem requiring treatment. It wasn't a dramatic victory. It was one more private detail I now had to place in a legal folder. When I returned home, Benjamin was waiting by the workshop. You went to a doctor, he said. I stopped beside my truck. How do you know? Lauren saw the insurance notice. She shouldn't have access to my insurance. She was listed as your contact after Teresa died. I remembered filling out the form. The receptionist had asked who to call if something happened. I'd written Lauren's name. That was not permission to monitor appointments. Still, an automated message had gone to her because the office used old contact information. I corrected it, I said. He followed me toward the workshop. You're acting like we're enemies. You filed a petition questioning my competence. Lauren filed it. You helped. She's scared. Of what? That you're going to destroy the family over a guest house. I asked your parents to leave. You put them on a deadline. After they refused. You know they can't afford another place around here. Then why did you promise them mine? His face tightened. I thought Lauren had the right. You still haven't read the lease. I don't need to read a lease to know my wife isn't some stranger renting from you. The paper doesn't change based on how related we are. That's exactly what I mean. Everything is technical with you. No. The technical part started when talking failed. He looked toward the locked file cabinet through the workshop window. You've got your little folder, your notes, your doctor's paper. You think that makes you right. It makes me prepared. For what? Fighting your daughter in 2 courts? I hadn't thought of it that way until he said it. The petition could force me to defend myself in one place. The lease could force me to proceed against Lauren in another. That was the scale of what they had created. Benjamin put his hands in his pockets. Withdraw the notice. Lauren withdraws the petition. Everybody calms down. It was the first clear offer anyone had made. It also answered the question I'd asked Lauren. The petition wasn't about my health. It was leverage for the guest house. You connected the two, I said. I'm offering a solution. You're offering to stop questioning my competence if I provide housing. I'm saying none of this needs to happen. It already happened. He stepped closer. Think carefully, John. A judge sees an older widower cutting off his daughter, changing locks, rejecting rent, and trying to throw 2 older people into the street. How does that look? Different when the dates are in order. You think dates matter more than family? Right now, they matter more than your version. He shook his head and walked back toward the guest house. I went inside the workshop and closed the door. Until then, my goal had been simple: get Donald and Kathy out, return the keys, and let Lauren keep her refuge. That was no longer enough. The discounted guest house had become the reason Lauren could avoid choosing. Benjamin used it as free housing for his parents. Lauren used it as protection from her marriage. I used it to keep myself necessary to her. Even if Donald and Kathy left on the final day, nothing would change underneath. I took the lease from the green folder and set it on the bench. I was still going to follow the notice exactly. I wasn't going to punish anyone or rush the deadline, but the $400 arrangement was finished. I would recover possession, protect my own decisions, and stop paying for a place in my daughter's life. I put the lease back in its folder and wrote 2 dates on my wall calendar. The first was the cure deadline. The second was the date my response to Lauren's petition had to be filed. I circled neither one. I didn't need red ink to make them important. Then I called the bank. Lauren had scheduled another $400 transfer. This one was still pending. The representative helped me reject it and block future transfers from that source. I asked for written confirmation. When it arrived by email, I printed it and placed it in the lease folder. A few minutes later, Lauren sent me a message. "You blocked my rent. I'm not accepting rent while you continue the breach. You can't call me a tenant and then refuse payment. I'm not discussing the notice by text. You know the cure date." She called twice. I let both calls go to voicemail. Her first message lasted almost 3 minutes. She said I was being unfair, that Donald and Kathy were applying for apartments, and that Benjamin was under pressure at work. The second message was shorter. "You're really doing this." I saved both and returned to the workshop. Not calling her back felt unnatural. I kept reaching for the phone whenever I heard her voice tighten. Each time, I set it down. Around noon, I heard metal scraping behind the guest house. Donald and Benjamin were carrying a tool chest into the storage shed beside the screened porch. The shed held my lawnmower, fertilizer, 2 folding ladders, and several boxes of Teresa's gardening things. Its door had been left open. "What are you doing?" I asked. Benjamin set down his end of the tool chest. "Making room in the guest house. This shed isn't part of the rental. It's attached to the property. It's beside the property." Donald wiped sweat from his forehead. "Ben said Lauren uses it. She doesn't." Benjamin pointed at the shelves. "There's plenty of room." A stack of plastic bins already occupied one corner. Kathy's handwriting appeared on the labels. Christmas, kitchen extra, photo albums. They hadn't carried those over in the last 5 minutes. Someone had been filling the shed while I dealt with the petition. I took out my phone and photographed the bins. Benjamin laughed. "Get my good side. Remove everything that belongs to your parents. You're taking pictures of boxes now?" "Yes." Donald looked at his son. "Let's just put it back in storage." "We paid for a month," Benjamin said. "Why move it twice?" "Because I didn't give permission. You keep using that word like nobody else has a say. In my shed, they don't." He stepped closer. "You're going to make a 69-year-old man carry this again?" "I'll help, Donald. You can help too." Donald said, "I can manage. I know you can." "That isn't the point." I opened the shed all the way and moved my mower onto the grass. The first bin was heavier than it looked. Donald took one side before I could lift it alone. We carried it to Kathy's car. Benjamin stood by the tool chest. "You're serious?" "Yes. This is petty. Pick up your end." For several seconds I thought he'd refuse. Then Donald went back and grabbed one handle. Benjamin took the other. It took 40 minutes to empty the shed. Kathy came outside halfway through and objected when she saw her bins beside the car. "Those have photographs in them," she said. "Then they should go somewhere dry," I told her. The shed was dry. The storage unit is dry too. This is humiliating. I didn't answer. I wasn't going to argue about humiliation beside boxes placed in my shed without asking. When the last item was out, I checked the walls and floor. Nothing had been damaged. I put the mower back, then I installed a padlock. That was the first visible piece of the property I recovered. The gain came with a sore shoulder and 3 people watching me, like I'd done something cruel. Donald loaded the smaller bins into Kathy's car. The tool chest wouldn't fit. "I can take you to the storage place," I told him. Benjamin said, "He doesn't need your help." Donald looked at the chest, then at my truck. "I do, unless you're staying. I have work. Then John can take me." Benjamin's face hardened. "Fine." We loaded the chest into my truck. On the drive toward Wade Hampton Boulevard, Donald kept both hands folded over his stomach. After several miles, he said, "Kathy thinks you hate us. I don't. You don't want us there. That isn't the same thing. It feels the same when your things are on the grass. I asked you not to move in. I know. Then I gave you a deadline. I know that too." He watched traffic through the passenger window. "Ben keeps saying you'll back down." "Why?" "He says Lauren always gets you there." That hurt because it was close to true. Did he say what happens if I don't? Donald rubbed his thumb over one knuckle. "He says the court thing will prove you're not thinking straight. Do you believe that?" "No." He answered without hesitation. "That was useful. Why are you staying?" "Kathy won't leave until we have a signed lease somewhere else. Ben says leaving now would admit we did something wrong. You did move in without my consent. I relied on my son. You also heard me say no." He nodded. "That part is on me." We reached the storage facility. Donald entered a code at the gate. He knew it from memory. His knee didn't appear to trouble him as we moved the tool chest onto a rolling cart. Before we left, I asked what rent they could afford. He gave me a range. It was lower than most places near Greer, but not impossible. They'd have to accept a smaller apartment or live farther from Benjamin. "Kathy wants a house," he said. "What can you afford?" "An apartment." "Then look at apartments. She says, after all these years, we shouldn't have to go backward. Smaller isn't backward if you can pay for it." He gave me a tired smile. "You sound like my father. I'll take that as neutral." On the drive home, we passed a low brick apartment complex with a now leasing sign. Donald turned to look. "Kathy crossed that one off," he said. "Why?" "No covered parking." I kept driving. At home, I went online and searched within the amount Donald had named. I found 5 listings. 2 had stairs. 1 charged too much for utilities. The other 2 looked possible. I printed both. The next morning, I handed the pages to Donald on the Guesthouse porch. "I'm not paying deposits," I said. "I'm not signing anything. These are within the number you gave me." He read the first page. "This one's in Duncan. It's about 15 minutes away." Kathy said she wanted Greer, then keep looking in Greer. He studied the second listing. "This one has a ground floor unit. It did when I checked." Kathy opened the Guesthouse door. "What are those?" "Apartment listings," Donald said. "Benjamin's handling that. He hasn't shown us anything. He's busy. The deadline doesn't care if he's busy." She looked at me. "Did you print those to get rid of us?" "I printed them because Donald said you needed an affordable place. We need time. You have the remaining days." She took the pages from him and looked at the prices. "This one doesn't include water. It says water is $30 a month. The rooms are tiny. You can call or throw the pages away. That's your choice." I walked back toward the workshop. An hour later, Donald knocked on the door. "I have a viewing tomorrow," he said. "Which one?" "The ground floor place." "Good. They want an application fee. Can you pay it?" "Yes." "Then pay it if you want to apply." He waited, perhaps expecting me to offer. I didn't. He nodded. "All right." Helping him without paying felt different from the help I'd given my family before. The work stayed with the person whose problem it was. That afternoon, Lauren came to the workshop. She knocked even though the door was open. "Can we talk?" "Yes." She remained near the entrance. Donald said, "You found them an apartment. I found a listing. He made the appointment. Kathy doesn't like it. Kathy isn't required to like my printer." A small smile almost appeared. Then it disappeared. "Benjamin thinks you're trying to divide everybody. I'm trying to help his parents meet a deadline. You could extend it." "No. Even if they're waiting on an application? They haven't applied yet. They might tomorrow. Then they should ask the apartment manager how long approval takes." She stepped farther inside. "If I withdraw the petition, will you extend the notice?" "No." Her face closed. "So, there's no reason to withdraw it. There's one important reason. It isn't true. You're not giving me anything. I'm separating 2 decisions. Your petition concerns my ability. Your lease breach concerns the Guesthouse. Benjamin said you'd do that. He offered to trade one for the other. He was trying to settle things. I won't buy my competence with free housing." She looked at the green folder on my bench. "You really plan to file against me if the breach remains after the deadline? What if his parents leave? Then that breach is corrected and everything goes back to normal?" "No." She stared at me. "What does that mean?" "It means we'll address the tenancy separately. You said the notice was about them." It is. Then why are you changing our agreement too? Because the arrangement no longer does what it was meant to do. Her voice lowered. It gives me somewhere to go. You haven't lived there in over a year. I still need it. You need to decide what happens in your marriage. Renting my guest house won't make that decision for you. That's easy for you to say. It isn't. You don't know what it's like to have your whole life tied to someone. I was married to your mother for most of mine, and she never made you feel trapped. I looked at Teresa's old gardening gloves on the shelf. No, she didn't. Lauren wiped under one eye. Then you don't understand. Maybe not, but I can listen without paying your rent difference. I pay you. You pay $400 for a place worth much more. So, this is about money now. No, it's about what the discount lets all of us avoid. She looked past me toward the locked file cabinet. You sound like you've rehearsed that. I've had time to think. She left without asking to see the lease. The apartment viewing happened the following morning. Donald drove himself. Kathy refused to go. He returned with an application packet and placed it on the guest house table. I knew because he called me over to ask about one line. They want a landlord reference, he said. Use your former landlord. He won't answer calls. Then explain that to the manager. Could you say we've paid you? You haven't. Ben said he was going to arrange something. He hasn't. Donald looked embarrassed. I won't lie for an application, I said. I will confirm you've kept the guest house clean during the days you've occupied it. That might help. I'll say only what I know. He wrote my phone number on the form. Kathy came from the bedroom and saw it. You're using John as a reference? He offered to confirm the condition. He's evicting us? He's still the property owner. She took the packet from Donald. We're not applying there. Why? Because once we sign something, he wins. I was standing 3 feet away. This isn't a contest, I said. Kathy looked directly at me. It became one when you served that paper. She tore my printed listing in half. She didn't tear the application. Benjamin arrived that evening. Donald must have told him about the viewing because he came straight to my workshop. He saw the new padlock on the shed. He saw the bank confirmation and attorney folder through the open workshop door. He also saw the apartment listing on my bench. You've been busy, he said. I have. You're moving my parents behind my back. They're adults. Donald viewed an apartment. You found it. Yes. And you told Lauren the cheap lease is ending. I told her we'll address it separately. He nodded slowly. For the first time, he wasn't dismissing what I planned to do. He was measuring it. Sunday, he said. 6 o'clock. Main house. What about it? We're having a family meeting. Everyone brings everything. The lease, the petition, your doctor papers, all of it. You don't call meetings in my house. Then we'll meet in the guest house. I'm not bringing my original documents. Bring copies. Who is everyone? You, Lauren, me, Mom, and Dad. No consultant? No? No one else? No. I looked at him. What do you expect the meeting to change? By the end, everybody will know exactly what you're doing. He walked away before I answered. My practical plan had given Donald a possible apartment and recovered the shed. It had also shown Benjamin the one thing he hadn't believed before. I was willing to follow through. I didn't answer him that night. On Sunday morning, Donald called. The apartment is gone, he said. What happened? They rented the ground floor unit yesterday. Did you submit the application? No. Why not? Kathy wouldn't sign it. The application required both occupants to sign. Donald had filled in his section, but the packet never left the guest house. Are you looking at anything else? I asked. Ben says we should wait until after the meeting. The deadline is Thursday. I know. Waiting doesn't change it. I know that too. He sounded worn down. What do you want, Donald? A place we can afford. Then why are you letting Benjamin turn down the one you found? He didn't turn it down. Kathy did. She thinks we should stand together. Standing together doesn't create housing. He didn't argue. At 6 that evening, I walked to the guest house with a thin folder of copies. I brought the notice, the delivery record, the consultant pages, and Lauren's message admitting she allowed the occupancy. I left the original lease locked in my workshop. Everyone else was already seated. Benjamin had moved the folding table into the middle of the living room. Lauren sat on one side with him. Donald and Kathy sat across from them. The 5th chair waited at the end. I took it. Benjamin placed several pages in front of himself. Before we start, nobody interrupts. You called the meeting? I said. That doesn't make you chairman. I'm trying to keep this organized. Then ask direct questions. Lauren looked tired. She had a legal pad in front of her, but nothing was written on it. Benjamin began. Are you willing to withdraw the breach notice tonight? No. Kathy leaned back. So this was a waste of time. Donald touched her arm. Benjamin continued. Are you willing to extend the deadline by 60 days? No. 30? No. Would you accept rent from my parents? No. Even if they pay the same $400 Lauren pays? They aren't approved occupants. That's not what I asked. It's my answer. He set down his pen. Do you hear how unreasonable that sounds? I hear that you want a different agreement. I want my parents protected, then help them rent a place. We tried. Donald found one. Kathy said, it was unsuitable. It was affordable and on the ground floor. You didn't see it. Neither did you. Her cheeks reddened. I saw photographs. You refused to visit. It had no covered parking. I looked at Donald. Was there another problem? He shook his head. Benjamin tapped his papers. This isn't about one apartment. It's about Dad and Mom having stability. Stability requires a place they can afford without my daughter's discounted lease. Lauren finally spoke. You keep calling it discounted like you were tricked. I set the amount. Then why hold it against me? I'm not. I'm ending something that no longer works. You haven't even told me when. The current breach comes first. That lets you keep me uncertain. You've had the same deadline for 10 days. Her eyes moved to my folder. Did you bring the lease? I brought what concerns this meeting. So no. You received a copy when you signed. I can't find it. Benjamin looked at me. That's convenient. For whom? For you. You keep referring to rules nobody else can see. Lauren saw them before she signed. That was 3 years ago. Then she should have kept her copy. He pushed one page across the table. It was his own timeline. The first entry was Teresa's death. The next said Lauren assumed responsibility for my mail and household support. Then came several dates involving repairs I'd done for family. Near the bottom, he listed the changed locks, returned rent, shed padlock, and consultant visit. He had left out the moving truck. He had left out the copied keys. He had left out the mail change and the day the petition was filed. This starts 5 years ago, I said, because that's when the concern began. What concern? You stopped having anyone here. You were both here for lunch. Sometimes. Lauren had dinner with me every Sunday for months. Lauren looked down. Benjamin said, then she moved back home, and you became isolated. I live alone. I'm not isolated. You work alone. You eat alone. You make major decisions without discussing them. They're my decisions. That's the attitude people are concerned about. Which people? This family. I looked at Donald. Do you believe I can't manage my affairs? He shifted in his chair. I think this got out of hand. That wasn't my question. No, he said. I don't believe that. Kathy stared at him. Benjamin's expression tightened. I asked Kathy the same question. She folded her arms. I don't know you well enough to say. Then why are you participating in a meeting about my ability? Because your decisions affect where I sleep. That's honest. She didn't seem pleased by the observation. I looked at Lauren. Do you believe the petition you signed? She stared at the blank legal pad. Benjamin answered. We're not trying that case here, I asked Lauren. She doesn't have to be interrogated. My daughter lifted her head. I believe you need to listen to people. That isn't incapacity. No. Do you believe I'm unable to manage my property? I believe you're using it to hurt us. That still isn't incapacity. No, she said again. The room went quiet. I asked, then why is the petition still active? Her eyes filled. Because if I withdraw it, you'll file against me. There is no trade. That's easy for you to say. You have every advantage. I own the property, and I kept the agreement. You own everything that matters right now. That's not true. You own the house. You own the guest house. You control whether his parents have a home. You control whether I have somewhere safe. I don't control your marriage. You control whether I can leave it. You have a job. You can rent somewhere. For $400? No. She let out a broken laugh. Exactly. There was the money beneath the refuge. Not greed by itself. Fear made easier by a subsidy. Benjamin slid another page toward me. This is our proposal. I read it. Donald and Kathy would remain for 6 months. They would pay $400 each month. The payment would go through Lauren, who would continue as tenant. During those 6 months, I would make a wooden ramp, provide a second parking area, and handle repairs. Lauren would withdraw the incapacity petition after I signed. At the end of 6 months, the arrangement could be reviewed. Nothing required Donald and Kathy to apply for other housing. Nothing ended their occupancy on a set date. Nothing protected Lauren's refuge because her in-laws would be living in it. I placed the proposal back on the table. No. Benjamin leaned forward. You didn't consider it. I read it. You'd receive the same rent. That was never the point. My parents get 6 months. Lauren withdraws the case. You get your family back. My family isn't a condition in a housing contract. You're the one making it conditional. I looked at Lauren. Did you agree to this? She nodded. Do you want your in-laws living in the place you call your refuge? It's temporary. 6 months with an open review. We need something everyone can live with. You won't be living there. She looked away. I folded my hands on the table. If Donald and Kathy leave before Thursday, the breach is corrected. I will then give proper notice to end the discounted tenancy. If they remain, I will use the process in the lease to recover possession. Lauren's face went pale. So either way, I lose it. Yes. That was the first time I said it, without leaving a door open. She pushed back her chair. Then, why should I make them leave? Because keeping them there adds a court filing. You've already decided to take it from me. I've decided to stop renting it below market. You promised it was somewhere I could go. I promised you a rental. I didn't promise it forever. You knew why I needed it? I did. I also know it kept you from making a decision. Benjamin stood beside her. Don't explain yourself to him. Lauren looked at me. If you file against me, I'm not going to pretend this is normal. I won't come over for Sunday dinner. I won't call to see if you're okay. I can't keep acting like your daughter while you treat me like a problem tenant. You are my daughter, not when it matters. That's when it matters most. She picked up her purse. I mean it, Dad. I believed her. The old part of me wanted to stop the meeting right there. I wanted to extend the deadline, lower my voice, and give her one more arrangement she could stand behind. I looked at the proposal again. 6 months of housing in exchange for my daughter, withdrawing a claim she'd admitted she didn't believe. No, I said. Lauren walked out. Benjamin gathered his papers. You chose a building over her. I chose not to trade my autonomy for her contact. He shook his head. You always have a line ready now. I had 5 years of practice saying yes. No takes more thought. Donald rose slowly. I'm going to look at another apartment tomorrow. Kathy stared at him. We agreed to wait. You agreed. I sat here. Benjamin said, Dad, don't let him split you two. Donald picked up his jacket. I need somewhere to live after Thursday. He left with Kathy following close behind. I carried my copies back to the workshop. Monday passed without an application. On Tuesday, Donald toured another apartment. The rent was within his range, but it required a deposit and the first month before move-in. He could pay both. Kathy refused because the bedroom was too small. On Wednesday, Lauren's certified copy of the notice came back with her signature on the delivery record. I put it in the green folder. Thursday morning, I sent one message. The cure period ends tonight. Please confirm Donald and Kathy will vacate and return all copied keys. Lauren replied at noon. They are staying. At 6, Benjamin parked both his truck and Kathy's car in the driveway. He carried groceries into the guest house. Donald watched from the porch but didn't help. At 9, the lights went off in the main house. The guest house lights stayed on. I sat at the kitchen table with the lease, the notice, and the signed delivery record. At 11:50, I poured 1 glass of bourbon. I didn't raise it. I drank it slowly while the minute hand moved. At midnight, nothing changed outside. Donald and Kathy remained in the guest house. Lauren remained responsible for the lease. The cure period expired with the breach intact. I rinsed the glass and left it upside down beside the sink. Then I put the green folder by my truck keys. Filing meant naming Lauren. It meant paying another fee. It meant accepting that she might stop speaking to me. I turned off the kitchen light. In the morning, I was going to file. The magistrate court opened at 8:30. I arrived 10 minutes early with the green folder under my arm. The clerk gave me a form and pointed toward a row of plastic chairs. The form asked what I wanted: possession, past rent, property damage, other money owed. I marked possession and left the rest blank. When my turn came, I placed the original lease, the breach notice, and the signed delivery record on the counter. The clerk checked the names and dates. You're filing against the tenant and all occupants, she asked. Yes. You need to identify the known occupants. I wrote Donald and Kathy's names beneath Lauren's. I did not list Benjamin because he wasn't living there. Are you claiming unpaid rent? No. Your filing says you returned a payment. I did. Any damages? Not in this action. She looked at the form again. You understand the court can't award something you don't request. Yes. The guest house wall had already been marked by furniture. The porch screen was loose where someone pushed a shelf against it. I could have listed repair costs. I could also have demanded payment for the extra utilities. That would have turned possession into punishment. I wanted the property returned. I didn't want every dollar I could attach to my daughter's name. I paid the filing and service fees. The clerk stamped the papers and handed my copies back. She didn't tell me I was right. She didn't tell me I'd win. Her job was to accept the filing and schedule the case. The hearing date was printed near the bottom. I put the court copy of the lease in the file, took the original, and left. Before going home, I stopped at the attorney's office. He compared the filed papers with my originals. Let's verify the sequence, he said. He read the lease date, then the date on the breach notice, then Lauren's certified mail signature and the expired cure date. The notice matches the lease requirement, he said. Does her attempted rent payment change that? You returned it before the deadline and documented why. What if she says Donald and Kathy were guests? The court looks at what they were actually doing, living there, receiving mail, storing furniture. Exactly. He ran one finger beneath the tenant line. This is the important part. Your agreement names Lauren. It doesn't name her husband, and it doesn't automatically extend to relatives. He says marriage gives him rights. He can say that. He still needs to point to the agreement. And the additional resident rule, it requires your written consent. You didn't give any. No. Then the question is whether the breach existed, whether proper notice was delivered, and whether it remained after the cure period. That removed the uncertainty I'd carried since the truck arrived. The lease did what I believed it did. It didn't remove Donald and Kathy. It didn't repair my relationship with Lauren. It gave me a rule I still had to stand behind in public. I asked the attorney whether I should bring every message and photograph. Bring them, but don't bury the simple issue. The lease, the notice, delivery, and continued occupancy are the center. Everything else only confirms those facts. What about the incapacity petition? Separate matter. Don't turn the possession hearing into a family trial. He showed me the response his office had prepared. It denied the claims and attached the doctor's summary, payment records, and the consultant's closing statement. We'll file this today, he said. Can the petition interfere with the magistrate hearing? Not unless a court actually limits your authority. No court has. I thanked him and drove home. A civil process server's car was outside the guest house when I arrived. He handed papers to Lauren on the porch, noted the time, and left. Benjamin stood behind her. She read the first page while I parked. When I stepped out, she held it up. You filed this morning? Yes. You didn't even call me. You told me they were staying. You named me. The lease is with you. You named Donald and Kathy too. They're the occupants. Benjamin came down the steps. This is your last chance to stop. No. The cure period was the chance to stop. You can dismiss it. I won't. He pointed at the papers in Lauren's hand. Then we'll bring the competency case into it. They're separate. A judge should know what kind of state you're in. I'm comfortable with a judge seeing the dates. Lauren said, Can you both stop talking around me? Benjamin turned. I'm defending you. I'm the one on the paper. That's how he designed it. I didn't design the lease, I said. Lauren signed it. Benjamin looked at me. And I'm her husband. Yes. You act like that means nothing. It doesn't put your name on an agreement you didn't sign. He took the court papers from her. Where's the full lease? It will be at the hearing. Why not give us a copy now? Lauren received one. She can't find it. Then you can review the court copy. He stepped closer. You enjoy having information other people don't. I asked you days ago if you'd read it. You've been hiding behind it since. I've been following it. Lauren took the papers back. If they leave before the hearing, will you dismiss? If they return possession and the keys, I'll notify the court. And what happens to my tenancy? It ends through the proper process. So I still lose. Yes. Her mouth trembled, but she held my eyes. Then we'll see you in court. She went inside the guest house. Benjamin remained on the gravel. You could have kept her out of this. No. You could have kept your parents out of her rental. He stared at me for a moment, then followed her. The next few days were quieter. Donald stopped calling about repairs. Kathy parked on the street without mentioning safety. Benjamin came each evening and stayed until late, but he didn't spend the night. On Tuesday, Donald knocked on my workshop door with another application. "This one's been approved," he said. "Both of you?" "Only me so far. Kathy hasn't completed her part." "When is it available?" "Next Monday. That's after the hearing. We could reserve it now. Can you pay the holding deposit?" "Yes." He looked toward the guest house. "Kathy says we should wait for the judge. What do you say?" "I say a judge can give us an answer about this place. He can't make that apartment stay open." "That sounds right." "Ben says paying a deposit makes us look guilty." "You're not on trial for a crime." I told him that. "Did you pay it?" "Not yet." I handed the application back. "You asked for my opinion. Pay it if you want the apartment." "Would you lend us the deposit if Kathy agrees?" "No." He nodded slowly. "I expected that. I'll help you load your furniture. I won't finance the decision." "That's fair." He left with the application folded beneath his arm. An hour later, I saw his car leave. That evening, he told me he'd paid the holding deposit himself. Kathy was angry. Benjamin was angrier. The apartment gave Donald a place to go, but it didn't return my guest house. Kathy refused to sign the lease. She said the hearing might allow them to stay. Donald wouldn't leave without her. The following morning, my attorney called. Lauren filed a withdrawal of the incapacity petition. I sat down on the workshop stool. Did she give a reason? The form says she no longer believes court intervention is necessary. Does that end it? The court still has to close the file, but yes, there's no opposing party asking it to continue. I thanked him. Then I called Lauren. She answered quietly. "I heard you withdrew it." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I shouldn't have signed it." "Did Benjamin agree?" "No, that was the first choice she'd owned without using we." "Thank you for correcting it," I said. "Are you dismissing the guest house case?" "No," she breathed out. "I knew you'd say that. I meant what I told you. They're separate. I withdrew it anyway." "That matters. Not enough. It doesn't erase what happened. It does matter." She was silent. Then she said, "I'll see you at the hearing." She ended the call. Withdrawing the petition protected my autonomy. It did not restore trust. It also removed the bargain Benjamin had tried to use. Only the lease remained. The night before the hearing, I made 3 sets of copies. Each set contained the lease, the breach notice, the certified delivery record, and Lauren's message confirming she allowed Donald and Kathy to stay. I added the mail confirmation and photographs behind them, in case the magistrate asked. I placed the original lease in a separate clear sleeve. The tenant line was easy to see. So was Lauren's signature. I thought about calling her and explaining exactly what the document showed. I could have warned Benjamin before he stood in court and made claims he hadn't checked. I didn't. He'd had years to ask his wife for her copy. He'd had days since service to inspect the court file. He'd demanded that everyone accept his version without reading the agreement underneath it. Letting him discover the words himself wasn't cruelty. It was the consequence of his certainty. The next morning, I wore a clean blue shirt and arrived at Greenville County Magistrate Court 20 minutes early. I sat on a wooden bench outside the courtroom with the green folder beside me. Lauren arrived first. Donald and Kathy followed. Benjamin came last. He carried no folder. He looked at my folder, then at the courtroom door. "You brought a lot of paper," he said. I brought what I filed. "We're going to ask for more time. That's your choice." Lauren sat between Donald and Kathy. She kept her purse on her lap and stared at the floor. When the courtroom opened, we went inside and took seats on opposite sides. There were several other cases ahead of ours. A landlord asked for unpaid rent. 2 men argued about damage to a car. Each case sounded enormous to the people involved and ordinary to everyone waiting. Benjamin whispered to Lauren throughout the first 2 hearings. She answered once, then stopped. When our case was called, I carried the green folder to the front table. Lauren approached the other table. Benjamin came with her. Donald and Kathy stood behind them. The magistrate looked at the case file. "Mr. Hale, you're seeking possession only?" "Yes." "No unpaid rent or damages?" "No." "And Ms. Chapman is the named tenant?" "Yes." The magistrate looked toward Lauren. "Are you Lauren Chapman?" "Yes." "Who are the other occupants?" "My husband's parents, Donald and Kathy Chapman." "Are they present?" Donald and Kathy raised their hands. Benjamin stepped forward. "I'm Benjamin Chapman. Lauren is my wife. Donald and Kathy are my parents. I'll be speaking for the family." The magistrate looked at him. "Are you an attorney?" "No." "Then you may speak about what you personally know. You can't provide legal representation for the others." This is a family rental. We're not treating it like a business dispute." The magistrate glanced at the papers. It was filed as a possession case. "That's what I'm hearing." Benjamin nodded, though he didn't look satisfied. The magistrate turned to me. "Mr. Hale, explain why you're seeking possession." I opened the folder. I rented the detached guest house to my daughter in 2023. The written lease requires my consent before the tenant assigns the rental or adds residence. I did not consent to Donald and Kathy moving in. I handed the clerk one set of copies and the original lease in its sleeve. The clerk passed them to the magistrate. I continued. I gave written notice allowing 14 days to correct the breach. Lauren received it. Donald and Kathy remained after the deadline. They are still living there. Did you accept rent after serving notice? No. Lauren sent an early payment. I returned it and blocked the next transfer. Did the occupants pay you directly? No. The magistrate examined the lease. Do you have proof of delivery? I handed over the certified receipt, and Lauren signed delivery record. Ms. Chapman, do you dispute receiving the notice? Lauren looked at Benjamin. No. Do you dispute that your in-laws continued occupying the property after the cure date? No. Benjamin touched her arm. They were there with her permission, he said. The magistrate turned to him. You'll have a chance to speak. They're being described like strangers. I understand your position. Please wait. The magistrate asked me whether Donald and Kathy had vacated before the hearing. No. Do they still have personal property in the guest house? Yes. Keys? Yes. Mail? Yes. The magistrate marked something on the file. Anything else, Mr. Hale? I have messages and photographs, if the court needs them. Let's hear from the other side first. I closed my folder and sat down. Lauren remained standing. Benjamin moved closer to the table. The magistrate asked, Ms. Chapman, what is your response? She swallowed. My father rented me the guest house when Benjamin and I were separated. I returned home, but I kept paying rent because I wanted a place available if I needed it. Were you living there when Donald and Kathy moved in? No. Did you ask your father for written consent? No. Did you believe you had permission? Lauren looked toward me. I believed it was my rental, so I could let family stay there. Did you read the provision concerning additional residence when you signed? I read the lease at the time. Did you understand it required written consent? I understood that generally, Benjamin whispered. Guests are different. The magistrate heard him. You may speak now, Mr. Chapman. Benjamin stepped in front of Lauren. My wife has paid rent for 3 years. She has never missed a payment. She is married to me, which makes me part of her household. My parents lost their rental and needed temporary housing. Lauren allowed them to use her place. He pointed toward me. John knew they were there. He entered the guest house. He repaired an electrical problem. He gave advice about appliances. He even helped my father move furniture to storage and find apartments. The magistrate asked, What do you believe those actions mean? They mean he accepted the arrangement. You don't help residents and then claim they were never allowed. I told them to leave before I repaired the breaker, I said. The magistrate raised one hand. You'll respond after he finishes. Benjamin continued. John became angry because the move happened quickly. We tried to work it out. We offered rent. He refused. We offered a 6-month agreement. He refused. He changed locks on the main house and blocked his daughter from accounts she had managed for years. That concerns a different property, the magistrate said. It concerns his state of mind. Lauren looked at him. We withdrew that. I know, he said. I'm explaining the context, the magistrate asked. Are you claiming Mr. Hale lacked capacity to enter this lease or serve notice? No, I'm saying he overreacted. That isn't the same issue. Benjamin's voice grew louder. The issue is whether a father can use a technicality to make his family homeless. Donald looked down. Kathy stared at the magistrate. The magistrate remained calm. The issue is whether the landlord is entitled to possession under this lease. The lease is with my wife. I'm her husband. Marriage gives me a right to be in her home. Were you living in the guest house? I stayed there when Lauren stayed there. Were you named as a tenant? I didn't need to be. We're married. Mr. Chapman, please identify your name on the lease. The magistrate slid the original across the table. Benjamin reached for it. He checked the first page. His finger moved down the tenant field. Then he turned to the signature page. He looked at Lauren's name. He looked at her signature. Then he searched the page again. The room was quiet enough to hear another case being discussed in the hallway. "Where should I be looking?" he asked. "The tenant field and the tenant signature line," the magistrate said. Benjamin checked both. His name wasn't there. For the first time, his certainty left his face. Lauren Chapman. Not Benjamin, not Donald, not Kathy. Lauren alone had signed as tenant. Benjamin looked at her. "You said it was ours. I said it was my lease. You never said I wasn't on it. You never asked." He turned back to the magistrate. "But we're married. That has to count for something. It doesn't add your name to this contract. I'm not some unrelated visitor. The court isn't deciding your marriage. I'm asking whether you are a tenant under this document." Benjamin looked at the signature page again. "I don't see why I would need to sign separately. Because the lease identifies the tenant." The magistrate pointed to the middle pages. "Now show me the landlord's written consent for Donald and Kathy to reside there." Benjamin flipped through the document. He found the provision. I saw his eyes slow as he read it. "Assignment or additional residence required my written consent." He turned another page, then another. "There isn't a separate consent," he said. "Was one ever given?" John knew they were there. That wasn't my question. "No." The magistrate looked toward Lauren. "Did your father give written consent?" "No." "Did he give spoken consent?" Lauren shook her head. "No." "Did he tell you to remove the occupants?" "Yes." "Did you allow them to remain after receiving the breach notice?" "Yes." Kathy leaned toward Benjamin. "You said the lease covered family." He whispered, "I thought it did." "You said you knew." Donald placed one hand over his mouth. The magistrate asked him, "Mr. Chapman, do you dispute that you reside in the guest house?" Donald lowered his hand. "No." "Mrs. Chapman," Kathy answered more quietly. "No." "Did either of you sign a rental agreement with Mr. Hale?" "No," Donald said. "Did either of you pay rent to him?" "No," Kathy added. "We offered," Benjamin corrected her. "We offered through Lauren," the magistrate read the notice. It identified the breach, gave 14 days, and listed the final date. The delivery record showed Lauren received it. Her message confirmed she chose not to remove the occupants. There was nothing hidden in another account. No surprise owner, no second agreement. The original lease was enough. The magistrate returned it to the clear sleeve. "Mr. Hale, you may respond to the claim that your repair work showed acceptance. I inspected an electrical circuit because overloaded wiring can damage my property. I told everyone before and after the repair that I didn't consent to the occupancy. I did not accept money from the occupants. I served notice once Lauren confirmed in writing that she would not remove them. Did you offer an extension? No. Were you required by the lease to offer one? No. Did you allow the full cure period? Yes." The magistrate looked at the dates once more. Benjamin said, "They have an apartment pending." Donald turned to him. "I have an apartment pending." "What does that mean?" the magistrate asked. Donald answered, "I paid a holding deposit. My wife hasn't completed her application. Can you move there if she signs and we pay the first month?" Kathy said, "It's too small." The magistrate nodded. "That may affect your personal planning. It doesn't change the lease before the court." Benjamin tried again. "We need more time. Why wasn't alternate housing secured during the notice period? We believe John would be reasonable." The magistrate looked at him. "He gave the period required by the agreement. He's ending his daughter's lease over this. The named tenant allowed a breach to continue after notice. Benjamin had nothing prepared beyond the version he'd believed." The magistrate addressed Lauren. "Do you have any other defense under the lease?" She looked at the original, then at me. "No." The magistrate made the ruling from the bench. Because Lauren alone was the named tenant, because additional residents required written consent, and because no consent existed, the occupancy violated the lease. The written notice gave the required 14 days. Lauren received it and allowed the breach to remain. The court granted possession to me, against Lauren and every occupant of the guest house. No damages were awarded because I hadn't requested any. The magistrate explained that possession had to be returned. If they did not leave within the period allowed by the order, I could request a writ to enforce it. The signed possession order went into the court file. Benjamin stood rigid beside the table. Lauren closed her eyes. Donald whispered something to Kathy. She didn't answer. The hearing was over. Outside the courtroom, Benjamin caught up with Lauren. You should have told me my name wasn't there. She stopped walking. You told everyone you understood the lease. I understood that you rented the house. No, you understood what you wanted. He looked at me. You let me stand up there knowing. You had access to the court file. You could have shown me. I asked if you'd read it. That's not the same. It is when you move people into somebody else's property. Kathy turned on him. You promised we couldn't be removed. I thought marriage made me part of the tenancy. You thought? Donald stepped between them. We need to deal with the apartment. Kathy's voice shook. I don't want that apartment. The court didn't give us another house. Lauren held out her hand to me. I thought she wanted the lease. Instead, she asked for the order. The court keeps the signed original, I said. You'll receive a copy. She lowered her hand. So that's it. The order returns possession. I know what it does, Benjamin said. Don't talk to him. Lauren looked at him. You don't get to tell me that right now. He went silent. She turned back to me. I'll make sure they leave before a writ. Thank you. That isn't for you. I'm not having someone come remove them. I understand. She walked toward the exit with Donald and Kathy. Benjamin remained in the hallway for a moment. The power he'd claimed came from an agreement he never checked. Once he finally read it, there was nothing left for him to argue. He followed his family out. I stayed long enough for the clerk to confirm the possession order had been entered. Then I carried the original lease back to the green folder and walked to my truck. By the time I reached Larkspur Street, Donald's car was gone. Kathy's was parked beside the guest house. The front door stood open, and flattened boxes covered the porch. Lauren came outside carrying a roll of packing tape. Donald went to sign for the apartment, she said. What changed? The possession order. I mean with Kathy. She's signing because the alternative is a writ. That wasn't acceptance. It was enough to move things forward. When do they get the keys? I asked. Tomorrow afternoon. Do they have enough for the first month? Yes. Moving truck? They're renting a small one. I nodded. Lauren tore a strip of tape with her teeth. Benjamin says you should pay for it. No. I told him you wouldn't. Do you think I should? She pressed the tape across the bottom of a box. No. It was the first time she answered without looking toward the guest house. I left her to pack and went inside my house. There was a message from Benjamin on my phone. You got what you wanted. Don't expect us to forget how you did it. I saved the message with the others. I didn't answer. The next morning, Donald came to the workshop. He carried a receipt from the apartment complex. Kathy signed, he said. Good. We move in at 2. Do you need help loading? I was going to ask. I'll help load and unload. I'm not paying for the truck. He nodded. I know. He folded the receipt and put it in his shirt pocket. I should have listened when you told us no. Yes. I kept thinking Ben must know something I didn't. He thought being married to Lauren settled everything. He thinks confidence is the same as being right. I closed the tool drawer I'd been organizing. Are you blaming him? Donald considered that. I'm blaming him for making the promise. I'm blaming myself for staying after I knew the truth. That was more accountability than I'd heard from anyone else. At 2, the rental truck backed into the driveway. This time, it stopped before Teresa's flower bed. Donald directed the driver while I moved my truck onto Larkspur Street. Benjamin arrived 20 minutes later. He parked near the mailbox and walked past me without speaking. We carried boxes from the guest house. The shelves came apart first. Then the folding table, the recliner, and Kathy's bins. The tool chest was already in storage. Kathy wrapped dishes and newspaper at the kitchen counter. When I carried an empty box toward her, she said, You don't have to pretend you're helping. I'm carrying boxes. You know what I mean? I don't. You're pleased. No, you won in court. I recovered the guest house. She placed a plate into the box. That sounds like the same thing. It isn't. She taped the box shut and wrote kitchen across the top. We could have paid something. You needed a place you could afford without depending on Lauren's lease. The apartment is half the size. Then there will be fewer rooms to maintain. She didn't smile. I hope you enjoy your empty house, she said. I picked up the box. I hope the apartment works for you. That was all we had to say. Benjamin stayed near the truck. He gave instructions and avoided lifting anything heavy until Donald told him to take one side of the couch. As they carried it through the door, a wooden foot struck the wall. It left a deep scrape and broke a piece of trim near the corner. Benjamin looked at the damage. "Normal wear," he said. "It wasn't there before. You're not charging them. I didn't request damages in court. Then it doesn't matter." Lauren walked over and touched the broken trim. "It matters," she said. He stared at her. "Whose side are you on? The wall is damaged. It's paint and a strip of wood. Then it should be easy to fix." He walked away without answering. The truck was full by 4:30. Donald checked every room, then swept the kitchen. Kathy waited in her car. Before leaving, Donald handed me one silver key. "Ben gave this to me after the hearing. There were 2 copies. Kathy says Lauren has the other." I looked toward my daughter. She checked her key ring. The original brass key hung beside the second silver copy. "I'll return all of them after we finish," she said. Donald extended his hand. I shook it. "Thank you for helping with the move," he said. "You're welcome. And for finding the listing. You made the call." He nodded. I did. He got into the truck. Benjamin climbed into his own vehicle. He lowered the window as he passed me. "They're paying almost 3 times what Lauren paid you. That's between them and their landlord. You could have made their lives easier. I did for several weeks. No, you made sure everybody knew you had the power. The lease had the power. You wrote it, and Lauren agreed to it." He looked toward her. "She won't trust you again. That's for her to decide." He drove away. Donald followed in the moving truck. Kathy's car went last. The guest house looked larger without their furniture. It also looked worn. There were nail holes near the window where Kathy hung pictures. The porch screen had pulled loose at one corner. The wall beside the couch was scraped, and the trim was cracked. Lauren stood in the middle of the living room. "I'll fix it," she said. "You don't have to do all of it tonight. I mean, I'll pay for the damage. I'm not asking for money. You said it matters. It does. Then let me fix what happened." I studied her face. "You can help repair it. I'll show you how." "When?" "Saturday morning," she nodded. "What happens after that?" "I'll inspect everything, change the guest house lock, and prepare it for a new tenant." Her hand closed around the brass key. "You already decided?" "Yes." "Market rent?" "Yes." She walked to the bedroom door and looked inside. "I used to sit on the floor in there when Benjamin called. I didn't want you hearing through the wall. I heard sometimes. You never said anything. You were entitled to privacy. I thought keeping this place meant I had control. Did it? For a while. What changed?" "Benjamin started treating it like something he controlled too." I waited. She said, "I let him." That was the part only she could repair. We walked back outside. Lauren locked the guest house with the brass key. "I'm keeping this until Saturday," she said, "for the repair." "Yes. After that, it comes back." "I know." She placed it on her key ring. On Friday, I received notice that the incapacity case had been closed after Lauren's withdrawal. I put the paper in a separate folder from the lease. The attorney's fee remained paid. Nobody reimbursed me. The court record still existed. Closing the case didn't erase that Lauren had filed it. I changed my medical contact information and checked every account where she'd once helped me. I removed her access from the few places where it remained. I didn't do it to punish her. Trusting someone with a spare key was different from making them responsible for my life. Saturday morning, Lauren arrived at 8 with coffee and a bag of biscuits. She also brought a small container of wood filler. "I wasn't sure what you had," she said. "I have plenty, I know. I wanted to bring something." We worked without talking much at first. I showed her how to remove the damaged trim without tearing the drywall paper. She held the pry bar while I steadied the piece. "Benjamin says, I'm helping you make this look acceptable," she said. "What do you think?" "I think his mother's couch hit the wall. That's what I think. He says you should hire someone." I could. I told him I said I'd do it. That was different from asking what he wanted. We cut a new piece of trim in the workshop. Lauren measured it once, marked it, then checked again. "Mom always measured twice," she said. She measured 3 times and still made me check. Lauren smiled. She didn't trust your eyes. She trusted them after verification. The smile faded, but she kept working. Around noon, we filled the wall scrape and reset the loose porch screen. The filler needed to dry before paint. Lauren washed the putty knife at the outdoor faucet. "I'm sorry," she said. I handed her a rag. "I heard you. I know that doesn't fix it. No, I shouldn't have signed the petition. No, I shouldn't have let them move in. No." She dried the handle of the putty knife. I kept waiting for you to solve it without making me choose. I know. And when you didn't, I treated that like betrayal. I set the tools on the porch. What are you going to do differently? She looked toward her car. I told Benjamin I won't sign anything he prepares without reading it. I changed my bank password. And I told him his parents' rent is his conversation, not mine. Those were actions. They still didn't restore the key or the lease. Are you staying with him? I asked. For now. Is that your choice? Yes. I accepted the answer she gave, not the one I might have preferred. She returned on Sunday to sand the wall. On Monday, she applied primer. Each time, she came alone. When the final coat dried, she stood beside the repaired trim and ran her fingertips across it. You can barely see it, she said. That's the idea. She removed the brass key and the remaining silver copy from her ring. She placed both in my open hand. The brass key felt warmer than the silver one. I closed my fingers around both. Thank you, I said. Lauren picked up her empty coffee cup. Do I need to sign something? No. You're not going to document the return? I already watched you hand them to me. She nodded. I'll call you later. All right. She walked to her car without asking when she could use the guest house again. I changed the lock that afternoon. The new key stayed with me. I hung the returned brass key on a peg above my workshop bench. Then I inspected every room against the photographs I'd taken before Lauren first moved in. The wall and trim were repaired. The porch screen was tight. Nothing else needed more than cleaning and paint. I sent the court the confirmation that possession had been returned voluntarily. No writ was issued. The green folder went back into the cabinet. I kept the possession order with it, along with the delivery record and return payment confirmation. I didn't keep the senior living pamphlets. I shredded those. A week passed before Lauren called. I was replacing a switch in the main hallway when my phone rang. Are you busy? She asked. The old question. A little. What do you need? Nothing. I waited. She said, I was calling to see how you were. I'm all right. How's the guest house? Clean. I'm painting the bedroom. Do you want help? Not today. Okay. She didn't invent a reason to keep me talking. She didn't mention Benjamin or money. She asked what I had made for dinner the night before. We spoke for 8 minutes. When the call ended, I stood beside the open switch box with my screwdriver in hand. There was no problem waiting for me to solve. 2 days later, she stopped by with coffee. She remained on the porch until I opened the door. You still have a phone, I said. I know. I was nearby. She held up the cardboard drink carrier. I brought one black. I let her in. We sat at the kitchen table. The yellow bowl remained beside the phone. Lauren turned it slowly with 2 fingers. I used to think this bowl was ugly, she said. Your mother agreed. That's why she kept it. That sounds like her. We drank coffee for several minutes without speaking. Before, silence between us usually meant one of us was avoiding a request. This time, there was no request. When she left, she took both empty cups with her. I listed the guest house the following Monday. I used the same photographs I would have used for any rental. I stated the actual monthly price, the occupancy limit, and the screening requirements. Several people contacted me. I showed the house by appointment. One applicant tried to offer 6 months of rent in cash if I skipped the background check. I declined. Another wanted to use the shed for a furniture business. I declined that too. I chose a woman who worked in medical records at a clinic in Greenville. She had steady income, good references, and no problem reading the full lease. We sat at the guest house table while she reviewed each page. When she reached the additional resident rule, she asked whether occasional visitors were allowed. Yes, I said. Visitors are different from people living here. She nodded and continued reading. She paid market rent and a deposit. I gave her a new key after everything cleared through ordinary screening. I didn't offer a family discount. She didn't ask for one. On move-in day, her brother helped carry a dresser. Before he backed his truck into the driveway, he asked where I wanted him to park. That small question stayed with me. The guest house could be used without my permission being treated as an inconvenience. Donald called later that month. The apartment's all right, he said. How's the ground floor? Easy on the knees I apparently have trouble with. I laughed. He said Kathy still disliked the parking. She'd arranged their furniture 3 different ways because the living room was small. Did you get everything out of storage? I asked. Most of it. We're selling what doesn't fit. That sounds sensible. There was a pause. The bathroom outlet stopped working yesterday, he said. I felt the familiar answer rise before he asked. Then he continued. I called the apartment office. Maintenance reset something in the kitchen, probably a protected outlet. That's what the man said. You got it handled, I did. He hadn't called for free electrical work, he'd called to tell me about his life. We spoke for another 10 minutes. Kathy never apologized. When I saw her at a grocery store, she nodded from the end of an aisle and kept walking. I didn't follow her. Benjamin's response came through Lauren. He says he won't come to your house, she told me one Sunday. We were sitting on the front steps because the weather was cool. I didn't invite him. He thinks you're waiting for an apology. I'm not waiting. What if he never admits he was wrong? That's his decision. She pulled the paper sleeve from her coffee cup. He says the court embarrassed him. He spoke without reading the lease. I told him that. How did that go? He said I should have warned him. And what did you say? I said he should have asked. She looked toward the guest house. The new tenant had placed 2 potted ferns on the screened porch. Things are tense at home, Lauren said. Do you want me to do something? No. Do you want me to listen? Yes. So I listened. She told me Benjamin blamed her for withdrawing the petition. He said she'd weakened their position before the hearing. He also blamed her for not forcing his parents to take the first apartment. What did you tell him? I asked. That his parents had 60 days before they ever came here. Then they had the cure period. Then Donald found an apartment. None of that was your fault. That sounds clear. He didn't like it. Clear answers aren't always popular. She gave me a sideways look. You would know. A month later, Lauren called about her washing machine. It's making a grinding sound, she said. Does it drain? Yes. Does the drum turn by hand? I haven't checked. Unplug it first. She did. I heard her set the phone down. The drum turns, she said when she returned. It could be several things. Do you want the name of a repair company? Yes. I gave her one. She called them herself. She paid the service charge herself. When the technician found a coin in the pump, she sent me a photograph of it. Benjamin said I could have removed it for free, she wrote. I replied, You handled it. She sent back, I did. That was another small test. Helping didn't have to mean driving across town with tools. It didn't have to mean paying. Sometimes it meant answering a direct question and letting the other person finish the job. Lauren continued visiting every week or two. She didn't receive a new house key. She knocked. At first, she always brought coffee or food. Later, she came with nothing in her hands. One afternoon, she sat at the table and said, I almost asked about renting the guest house again. It isn't available? I know. Would you have asked if it was? No. I stopped myself. Why? Because if I need to leave Benjamin, I need to make a real plan, not keep one foot in a place you pay for. I wasn't paying all of it. You were giving up most of the rent. That's true. She turned the yellow bowl again. I'm saving money now. That's good. I opened an account in my name. I didn't ask how much was in it. I didn't offer to add anything. She said, I'm not leaving today. I understand. But I know what I'd do if I chose to. That's different. Yes. The following week, she invited me to lunch at a diner near downtown Greer. When the check arrived, she picked it up. I invited you, she said. I can pay for mine. I know. I'm paying because I invited you, not because I need something. I let her. Our relationship didn't return to what it had been. That would have meant returning to the same habits. She still became defensive sometimes. I still offered solutions too quickly. When that happened, one of us usually noticed. Once, she said, I need to complain for 5 minutes. Don't fix it. I set a timer on the kitchen table. She laughed so hard she had to start over. Benjamin remained distant. He sent a card on my birthday with both their names, but he didn't call. At Thanksgiving, Lauren came alone for dessert. She said he'd eaten with his parents. I didn't ask her to choose between tables. Donald called before Christmas and asked whether I wanted to meet for breakfast. We ate eggs and grits at a place off Wade Hampton Boulevard. He paid for his own meal. He said the smaller apartment had forced them to clear out years of things they didn't use. Kathy still believed I could have let them stay. And you? I asked. I believe you told us no before we unpacked. That was enough. If you stayed with me this far, tell me in the comments what you would have done. And subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories like mine. By early spring, rosemary was growing again beside the guest house porch. The new tenant asked before trimming it because Lauren had planted it years earlier. I told her to leave it. One Saturday morning, Lauren arrived with 2 coffees. She knocked on the front door, then followed me outside. We sat on the main house steps. She told me about an ordinary week. Work had been busy. Her car needed an oil change, and she'd already scheduled it. Benjamin was visiting his parents. Neither of us mentioned the court. The workshop door stood open across the yard. Morning light reached the workbench and the row of labeled pegs above it. Lauren noticed the old brass key hanging there. "You kept it," she said. "It still works." "I changed the lock, but the key is part of the house." She nodded and drank her coffee. A car passed slowly on Larkspur Street. The rosemary moved in the breeze beside the rented guest house. Lauren and I drank coffee on the main house steps while the returned guest house key hung on my workshop peg.